thank you for joining us for the 2024 Ottawa Race Weekend Tartan Homes International Marathon. My name is Marley Dickinson, and I'm a journalist with Canadian Running, and I'm joined today by Fredericton Stride coach, Donna Mayer, and the second fastest Canadian marathoner in history, Rory Linkletter.
I'm really honored to be here this morning with you guys. Coming off the 10K last night as a part of Ottawa Race Weekend. It's a beautiful weekend for racing here in Ottawa. It looks like we're going to have a really lovely day for marathoning, and it's going to be an exciting race we have on our hands.
There's over 37,000 participants this year. It's also the 50th anniversary race weekend, and the first race 50 years ago, there were only 146 runners, so that's quite a jump in numbers in 50 years. And back then there was only 3 women racing.
Yeah, let's take a look at the weather today. The conditions are very, very nice. A cool 15 degrees at the start line, which is about 10 degrees colder than it was last year. Very slight winds coming from the north, so it's kind of ideal conditions for marathon. What do you think of the weather, Rory?
I would, you can't complain. Most of these athletes are probably expecting warmer actually when they're preparing for a race like this time of year, knowing that it can be, the start of summer. So I think everybody's probably pretty excited that it could be PB conditions out there today, and that's all you can ever ask for an end of May marathon.
Let's go in to take a look at the course map.
Okay, so the racers will start at City Hall. They're going to run along the Rideau Canal, along the Queen Elizabeth driveway. They're going to run out to Dow's Lake, and then they're going to go into the Experimental Farm, which is a new section this year. It also has a nice little hill of 300 meters with a 6% grade. Then they're going to go along the parkway. There's a nice little out and back section. It's the first chance that they get to see their competitors and size people up. Then they do a nice long stretch down Wellington Street. They're going to pass Parliament Hill, and then they're going to head out past the Rideau Falls. And there's another new section that's added this year, Rockcliffe Park. It has another steep hill, which is another 6% grade. They do not pass into, crossover into Gatineau this year. The whole race stays on the Ottawa side. Then 32K is the longest hill. It's a mile long. There's lots of twists and turns. They hit a few more out and back sections on the way back into the city. And then another little stretch along the canal and head to the finish line at City Hall.
It's important to note that this course is not exactly a flat, fast course, is it? No. It has 200 meters of elevation gain throughout, which is 50 meters more than the Boston Marathon, as many of our viewers are probably well familiar with, which is notorious for its Newton Hills. So here in Ottawa, they have their own hills. So we'll have a fun race with differing splits depending on where they're at on the course and what the course offers. But as Donna mentioned, there's 3 significant hills throughout the course, 1 in the first half and 2 in the later stages of the race. So that'll be something that these athletes will be having to store their energy for and get ready for and hopefully have prepared for before today.
Yeah, something else also important about this race, it is a World Athletics label race, so there is a lot of prize money on the line today. The winners of the men's and women's marathon will be competing for over $8,000 of total prize purse. And for a lot of these runners, it'll be kind of a major kind of stepping stone for a lot of those bigger races. Let's take a look at the women's elite list here.
All right, we have Tinabeb Nabeyu from Ethiopia, Marigu Halem from Ethiopia as well. Best PB in the field at 2:24:42. Dembele Chefo, also of Ethiopia, sub 2:30 in the marathon. Mbet Nguses from Ethiopia, 2:26. She's probably got the greatest momentum in the field so far this year, having run Rome earlier in 2:26. That's her personal best just 2 months ago. Rachel Hanna, expected to be our top Canadian as a 2:32 entry time. Alexandra Hines, another contender for top Canadian here, 2:46 marathon, and a debutante from the USA, Andrea Condi.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see what Condi can do. She's a 1:17 for the half, and very, very decent runner in the NCAA. Probably a lot of nerves going through Condi's system today. It's very eager to get your first one done.
Yeah, and sometimes that halftime isn't necessarily indicative. We have no idea what went into that. Maybe it was a preparation just for this race, a building block. So we'll keep an eye on her and see where she puts herself early. Maybe she'll be finding herself with Rachel Hanna, and it could make for a good little group of people working together there.
Awesome. Well, let's take a look at the men's field.
All right, we have Felix Chimangas of Uganda, probably the favorite in the field. He's run Toronto before. He's got a 2:05 personal best. Bazu Werku of Ethiopia, 2:05 as well. We have Lencho Tesfaye Mbesa from Ethiopia. Laban Kipkemboi of Kenya. Robert Chimangas of Uganda, not brother of Felix, although they have the same last name. Negesa of Ethiopia. Adamu Gitawin of Ethiopia, and our favorite Canadian, Sergio Reyes Villanueva, who ran the 10K last night, a unconventional double for Ottawa race weekend, but we commend him for his efforts just being on the start line this morning. Julius Ruunga of Kenya and Arnaud Francioni of France.
Yeah, I mean, Chimangas has to come in here as the favorite. He told me yesterday he's eager to run 2:06, and he feels like he is in 2:06 shape. This will be his first marathon in over a year, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of shape he's in. In the past, he's beat really prestigious runners like Benson Kipruto, who's going to be running on the Kenyan team for the Paris Olympics later this year. So he's field, but it'll be interesting to see what also the race will be like on the Canadian side. Sergio Reyes Villanueva, personal best of 2:18. He won Vancouver actually 4 weeks ago. So I mean,
the guy likes to race.
He likes to race. He says he's very inspired by a Japanese runner and 2018 Boston Marathon champion Yuki Kawauchi, who runs almost 16 to 20 marathons each year.
I mean, I have to applaud that as a fellow marathoner. I try to sign up for 2, maybe 3 marathons in a year, so never would I voluntarily sign up for one a month, but I think it obviously shows that he just loves the atmosphere of a race weekend and can't say no to a good time, which is what we're trying to have here this morning.
Oh, for sure.
The athletes are taking their final preparations, strides, drills, getting ready for the start. At this point, obviously, nerves are coursing through your veins, and you're probably wondering what you signed yourself up for, because they're going to be heading out on a march of pain, but it's obviously something they've been working for months here.
Here's a look at Canada's Sergio Reyes Villanueva.
He looks pretty calm to me.
Yeah, he does this frequently enough that I don't think it's too big of a scare for him anymore.
We're about 5 minutes from the start of the 2024 Tartan Homes Ottawa International Marathon. They're just sort of playing the Canadian anthem right now.
Yeah, and I think it's a good time to mention that this is one of 2 labeled races, as you mentioned, that it's a elite label race, and it is easily the biggest marathon in Canada in the spring season, and it's a lovely event full of a lot of racing, and they had the 5K yesterday, the 10K last night, marathon starting here shortly, half marathon starting at 9 a.m. Lots of fun racing this weekend, and Ottawa is a running city, and this will be a great celebration of that.
Rory, you had the chance of pacing an athlete here last year. Just tell us kind of what the vibes of the course are kind of like.
Yeah, so I ran half of the course last year. It's really exciting starting this early in the morning. It's kind of a crisp start. Last year it was quite warm, so it was welcome to the 7 a.m. start time is nice for that reason. And this year it'll obviously be a lot cooler, so this is even better for that. Running along the Rideau Canal is what the 10K course does, and that's how this race starts for the first 5 or 10K of the race. So that's a beautiful section. I mean, that's the kind of what I think, as a visitor of Ottawa, is one of my favorite pieces of the city. So it's a great place to start near City Hall, and then the atmosphere of race weekend is pretty electric. I find for the 10K, the fans are very excited that this is happening in the city. So the marathon is obviously the crown jewel of Ottawa race weekend, so I expect even more excitement along the course today. I expect people to be outside of their homes, lining along the streets and cheering for these athletes along all the way through.
Well, they usually expect about 200,000 fans and all along the race course, so lots of excitement for everyone.
I think I saw in a fact of the race weekend is this is quite the stimulus to the local economy, obviously, with 40,000 athletes coming from all over the world, all over Canada, all over North America. I believe I saw $14 million of
correct, yeah.
estimated stimulus to the local economy. So this is a big weekend, not just for the runners, but for the city of Ottawa.
Yeah, something I've been coming to Ottawa Raceway for a few years now, and something I really love about coming here is just the whole city really gets around the race.
Yeah.
And they align the course on the Saturday for the 10K, and really they get to see some of the top Canadian athletes compete for that national title, and then wake up the next morning and cheer on the marathon runners. It's really just like a pinnacle of a weekend, and it's a great highlight in the sort of the Canadian racing calendar each spring.
Yes, absolutely.
We're about 2.5 minutes from the start of the 2024 Tartan Homes Ottawa International Marathon on Rogers TV here. What do you think is going through an athlete's mind right now, Donna?
Oh, I think they just want to get it started. They have their race plan. They just want to get things rolling and then just settle into their groove. We have some pacers there today, so there's some men in the first pace group is going out at 2:08, and the second pace group for the men is 2:18. For the women, we have a 2:24, and then we have a 2:34 with Rachel Hanna.
Yeah, I mean, he's really easy to spot, but Canadian beer mile record holder Corey Belmore will be pacing the 2:18 group.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's exciting. I noticed he just last weekend or 2 weekends ago made his debut in the Ironman scene, switching over from the track guy to the longer endurance. So maybe this is a great training opportunity for Corey.
He really does it all.
Yeah, he can do it all. So
there you can see our top Canadian seed, Rachel Hanna, in the black.
Yeah, this is always the hardest part, is just getting to the start line, ready for the gun to fire, and then once that gun fires, I find all of those pre-race nerves and tensions just subside with the first kilometer of the race, and you kind of just shake all that feeling of emotion and rust off, and kind of just enjoy the moment and get the body rolling.
We are 1 minute until the start. Do you find that you still get nervous for races at the start line, Roy?
Yeah, I'd say every time you do it, you get a little bit more comfortable with the idea and a little less anxious. My first marathon, I could hardly sleep, so I'm sure there's plenty of athletes in the field today that, whether it be their first time, second time, first time here, first time aiming for a big goal, it's normal to feel very nervous and very anxious for the race to start. But as you do this more and more, you realize, hey, the worst thing that can happen is you have a bad day. So just go to enjoy it. You put in a lot of work, and you're ready to compete.
about 30 seconds from the start of the race. I think it's interesting that we have a Tyrannosaurus Rex on the left side. So
Oh, yeah.
surprised he's not taking the start there, but I mean,
Who doesn't dress up in their Halloween costume for the start of a marathon?
yeah. Oh.
Looking back on this start line last night, similar to what we can see here today, just an absolute mass of people. So many people lined up for hundreds of meters back. It's pretty daunting when you turn around if you're at the front of this line and you see how many bodies are just piled up behind you. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's the biggest spring race weekend in Canada, and it's incredible to see how many runners just are kind of put Ottawa as out of that goal for their season, right?
Yeah. I think that obviously from the elite side, Ottawa is a unique opportunity being so late in the spring season. A lot of these athletes probably had multiple goals this spring and find themselves on the start line of Ottawa with something probably either having been already run earlier this spring, like we had in the women's side, some top athlete running Rome earlier, or maybe they put something on the calendar and had to push back due to fitness or injury, or maybe this is just their stepping stone for, like you said, as an elite label race for future goals and opportunities to run majors in the future. Oh, everyone's raising their hand.
One final photo here before we start. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
that looks amazing.
The winners of last year's race was Ethiopia's Ilian Adane, who ran 2:08:22.
Which on that day, with how warm it was, that's an incredible run on this course in those conditions. So even if our winner runs that time today, that would be a really, really strong run on such a tough course.
What times do you think we'll see from the men's and women's elites field today?
I like that they're pacing it out at 2:08 pace for the lead men. I think that that's a safe plan for knowing that the back half of the course has the big hills. So I think that sets them up for hopefully an exciting race in the back half and maybe a negative split if the athletes are in good form and working together up until the later stages. As for the women, 2:24 seems like a good place, similar to the 2:08 mark for the men, just kind of setting the bar at a place where these athletes hopefully will have groups to work with in the latter stages.
Yeah, these conditions will be very forgiving today, with the weather being nice and cool. It'll definitely play off in the later half of the race. This race has been typically in years past in the late 20s, and obviously last year I think it was about 27 degrees around the start time, which makes it very tough to get nutrition and proper hydration and also train for, especially in the spring coming off a Canadian winter.
Can definitely be a game changer to your race plan.
Must be some sort of technical delay on the starting line because we said 30 seconds about 2-3 minutes ago, but hopefully whatever is happening is ready to roll because these athletes are probably chomping at the bit. Here we have Felix and Robert Chimangas, both wearing the same color of kit, but it looks like Robert is wearing a black long sleeve underneath. He's obviously not worried about it being too warm out there this morning as he's got the full long sleeve shirt underneath his jersey.
The top Canadians in last year's race was Melinda Yalmore, who won the 10K yesterday. What an impressive run by her, going 32:50, which was just 6 seconds over, like 6 seconds behind her PB. She ran 2:27 here last year. Are you excited to kind of be going to Paris and have her sort of her veteran status on the Canadian Olympic team?
Yeah, Melindy is a world-class athlete and one of Canada's greatest athletes ever if you look at her accomplishments throughout her career. So it's very exciting to see her here at Ottawa Race Weekend for one. Last year seeing her, I think she was second overall here last year,
Yeah.
which is an incredible feat with a great international field. And yeah, it just goes to show you that, you know, Ottawa Race Weekend is full of world-class athletes, and it means a lot to us Canadian athletes especially.
And we're very fortunate to see all of you guys racing here. This is my first experience with the Ottawa Race Weekend, and it's been phenomenal.
We've been told there's been just a minor sort of technical delay, but the race is going to be getting underway in sort of next couple of minutes.
Yeah. Sometimes this can be a comic relief for athletes that are feeling a little bit nervous on the start line. You know, you kind of built up this 7 o'clock start time, and here 5 minutes roll by, and you're kind of like, okay, let's see what's happening here.
Kind of see the 3-hour marathon pace bunny there in the back. I imagine that's a big sort of barrier that a lot of people are sort of kind of trying to hope, chasing sort of Boston Marathon qualifying times.
Yeah,
for next spring.
Absolutely, absolutely. You'll probably have the majority of your competitors here today out here probably just to get through this race and get to the finish line. But at the upper echelon, right behind our elite marathoners, there's probably a lot of people using Ottawa Race Weekend as a opportunity to try to run Boston qualifiers, lifetime bests with these conditions. So it should be a large group of people with that pace bunny.
The race is just getting underway here. 45 seconds to start.
Athletes just trying to stay loose at this point. Nothing like being held in a call room before a track race, though. It'll take like 10-minute delay on the start line any day over that.
When your competitors are looking you square in the eye.
Yeah, sitting on chairs and such. Looks like they're all getting ready to start their watches. If it isn't on Strava, it doesn't count, so get it going.
That's true, that's true. Start of the 2024 Tartan Homes Ottawa International Marathon.
Hard right in the first 15 seconds of the race, and then they'll head out, loop around the canal here. So just finding their pace groups early in the race. That's kind of what this first 30 seconds is about, is turning on the legs, shaking out the rust, finding who you're going to be competing with, and locking into a pace and rhythm. As we see our lead men pacer taking them out strong.
How important is that first K, Rory?
I find, like, you know, with the carb loading, with the fueling you have to do for a marathon, the first kilometer of a race is a really good opportunity to just kind of shake out, like that kind of like that feeling. You know, you don't warm up much for a marathon because of the volume of the race in itself. So I find the first kilometer to be a great way to, you know, shake off the anxiety of the race, and also kind of warm up the body and treat it as an extension of your warm up, and yeah, just kind of calming your nerves.
Which is, I think, a big difference between the professionals and, you know, the age groupers. They tend to go off the line, they just want to get going, and sometimes their first kilometer is their fastest split of the day, and then they have to reel it in.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of the elites find themselves in a similar position. It always just depends on what the group is doing, and here we have, it looks like a group of half a dozen men forming here early with being paced out. Pacers checking their watches to make sure they're on for the first 2 minutes of the race. This is, you know, I find having paced this race last year, your number one concern as a pacer is to not mess up anyone's race. So you're probably looking around, feeling it out, making sure that your group is with you, and checking your watch many times in the first kilometer, being like, okay, I'm not settling in too much, I'm not pushing too hard, I'm not getting excited, I don't want to throw off the groove of anyone else in this group. But we see Chimangis is right up there on the rabbit's shoulder early, as we would have expected, and a good group in tow.
A fun fact about Robert Chimangis is he won gold at the African Beach Games.
The African Beach Games. Tell us more about that. What is that?
So it's I know I just learned this existed as well. So there's a half marathon at the African Beach Games, and which is a partial sand and beachside course, and he ran 64 minutes.
That's got to be quite the work on the lower legs. I've done a few beach shakeouts in my day, and I find it's quite hard on the legs when you're not used to running through sand.
Yeah, 3-minute Ks on sand must be a tough pace to
for sure.
to keep up.
Absolutely. Never easy anywhere, but you do it on the soft terrain like that.
He doesn't compete, Robert Chimangis doesn't compete too much. He has one marathon in the last 3 years, but he has been a sort of a trail runner in the past. He won the 2018 12K race at the World Mountain Trail Running Championships.
Oh, wow.
So
Uganda actually does have quite a good mountain running, trail running contingency that's kind of bursting onto that scene. So from what I understand, Uganda is quite hilly, so the hills of Ottawa are probably nothing for Felix and Robert today.
So we have a 1K split for the men. It's a 3:06 pace.
Okay, so a little slower than 2:08 target pace. This is probably closer to 2:10 pace at the moment, but not that important at this point. They have plenty of time to sort themselves out. A few seconds per kilometer isn't going to change things, but it does look like our favorite early, Felix, is antsy to get going, as he's looks like in our frame ahead of the pacer. So hopefully that pacer is checking his watch as he just did and making sure he's running that scheduled pace, which is about 3:02 per kilometer if you're going to run right at 2:08 pace. Seeing as I have run 2:08:01, I'm very familiar with 2:08 pace. Yeah, at this point, they've just crossed the first mile of the race for our American viewers. I would say you're probably settled in at this point. You feel locked into a rhythm. You should be just kind of focused on just being as relaxed as possible. Not a lot going on in your brain yet. Just kind of enjoying the ride and trying to make it as easy as you can.
there's a look at Felix Chimangis there. You raced him actually a few years ago at the 22 World Championships in Eugene.
Yeah, turns out I did beat Felix in the Eugene World Championships, which is a great honor for me. As we mentioned, Uganda is quite a strong nation of marathoners. They have some of the best runners in the world at the moment. So anytime you can be in competition with the likes of a powerhouse country like Uganda, it's a great honor. So he was 34th at the World Championships in Eugene in 2:12, and I was 20th in that race in 2:10. So I do remember passing a contingent of Ugandan athletes, maybe around 30K, and being pretty excited myself, as that was my first World Championship experience. So seeing that yellow vest and passing it was quite the honor.
I remember speaking to you after the race, and you were quite fired up. You were really excited about the whole experience, and you went out quite conservatively, if I remember. Is that sort of a strategy you think for a lot, knowing that at World Championships and at Olympic Games or any sort of marathon major, that the pace will go out a little quick, and people will eventually fall back?
Yeah, I think these athletes know what fitness they're in, and oftentimes you can get excited early in a race and maybe fall away from your plan, but I find the best strategy for a marathon is to stick to your training, trust your instincts, and just relax and roll in these earlier stages of the race. It's important to have a healthy fear for the distance.
Awesome. We're going to go check out the start line of the
Mass participants.
mass.
Looks like they're wrapping up the tail end of these athletes just getting going on their journey. Many of these athletes will have hours on the streets of Ottawa, so they're going to need lots of encouragement from our locals, and hopefully the atmosphere is everything we anticipate.
A beautiful backdrop there of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which is a beautiful commemoration to the soldiers in the First and Second War in Canada. Now they're along the Rideau Canal here, just passing. So they're probably the first water station of the course. You don't see them grabbing too much. Missed the first one there. Do you find that taking sort of water hydration in early stages helps, or when do you sort of grab your first bottle?
I wouldn't take it this early normally. I usually just rely on the personal fluids every 5K, but maybe athletes experiencing some dryness or something that they want to just like rinse out, and if it's there and it's easy to grab, no harm, right? So yeah.
Because the elite water stations are every 5 kilometers, and they have their specific bottles on their specific tables.
Let's take a look at the women's race. Kevin Coffey is pacing the group of 2:24.
We'll see if we can get access to that women's lead vehicle here shortly. But in the meantime, we have a 2K split update, another 3:06. So they haven't sped up. I think they're probably just feeling it out still. No problem in that. Personally, I think it makes for better racing if we're conservative early and keeping that group as large as possible, as long as possible.
In the early stages of a marathon, Rory, do you think how important is having someone or a big pack to work with, and just kind of turn your mind off?
I think it's paramount. It makes the splits seemingly fly by a lot quicker when you're in a group. When you're alone, you tend to focus a lot on the internal stuff. How am I feeling? How's my breath? How do my legs feel? But when you're surrounded by people, you have all these external stimulus to distract yourself. You're making sure you're not, drafting off the person. You're drafting appropriately off the person in front of you. You're not bumping into the people around you. It's a welcomed distraction to pace and gauge yourself off of your competitors versus being solo out there.
So the men's 3K split was a 3:09 kilometer.
A little slower. So yeah, they're not in a hurry to get going here yet. Oh, here's our lead women view with Kevin Coffey leading them in tow, and it looks like a couple sub-elite men also just kind of jumping in and joining the ride, and hopefully giving them great pacing as well.
Yeah, I can spot in the back there Dembele Chefo of Ethiopia. Just personal best of 2:29:51 from the 2019 Dublin Marathon. I don't know if any of you both been to Dublin. It's a beautiful city.
I've never been to Ireland. It's definitely on my list, though.
You're partially Irish, aren't you?
Scottish. Close
Scottish.
enough, though. It looks like Laban Kipkemboi, or Mutai as it says on his bib, is also making a bid towards the front of that men's lead pack. Maybe there's somebody in that group that is seeing these first 3 kilometer splits being a little bit slow and had different things in mind. And I think that there's a chance somebody here is going to get frustrated if they're not running, you know, those 302, 303, 304 splits. And if they keep seeing those 306, 309, I wouldn't be surprised if someone takes matters into their own hand, depending on where their fitness is. You know, you want to run what you think you're capable of running, and a lot of these athletes, this is a great opportunity to prove fitness.
With the course kind of being very hilly later on, you kind of want to get out fast and take advantage of areas.
Yeah, I mean, I personally want to keep the effort as consistent as possible. So when you have a flat, smooth section like we do along the Rideau Canal, I would be expecting my fastest splits to come at that point. And having run this exact stretch last night in the 10K road race, it's fast, it's smooth, it's a great rhythm roll. So maybe they're just not ready to really play their cards yet. And, you know, prize money on the line, maybe their number one focus is placement, knowing that the course is difficult in the last half.
Laban Mutai there at the front, there was pushing the pace a little bit. He's a former teammate of Eliud Kipchoge.
The former world record holder and reigning two-time Olympic champion that we'll see in Paris this summer. So if you've ever, you know, rubbed shoulders with Eliud Kipchoge, you probably know a thing or two about running marathons, and I would trust his instincts out here on race day.
Yeah, they were born in the same town, which I thought is what. And he looked up to Kipchoge and said he was one of his distance running goals or mentors. Sorry, when he started marathon running. A fun fact about Mutai too, he also has 20 siblings.
That's a lot. It's a lot of siblings. I thought having 5 was a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, imagine if you had 20. Would you be able to remember sort of all their names? You know, at that point.
I mean, it would be a tricky game to play flashcards and name tags with your own siblings.
He said if he wasn't a professional runner, that he would be a farmer.
So
I respect that.
Sorry, the men's 4K split is a 3:08.
Still a little bit behind what we anticipated early. So, lead women still just in tow. Do we have any splits on the lead women yet?
Not yet.
Let's see. We'll probably be getting a 5K split here shortly, and we'll update you when we do. Yeah, I think I see 4 women in this lead group behind these men that are pulling them along. So, just like the men's race, all the people we expect making that decision to go and just work together early.
Yeah, you can see at the front there, Kingston's Kevin Coffey. He is a notorious pacer. He is spot on. He paced the women's elite field at the Toronto Waterfront Marathon last fall. You know, he was talking with, it's so funny to see him with the small stature of a lot of the East African runners.
Yeah.
Because he's
probably
about 6'3", 6'4". Yeah,
he's a tall guy.
Yeah, he's got a very unique stride, and he's very motivational out there on the course. He's always chatting, always trying to engage with the runners. And
I've paced elite women one time at the Chicago Marathon last fall. I find it is it's an honor to help anyone run their best, and when you've done it as many times as Kevin has, I'm sure he kind of knows how to read the group, and you see him looking over his shoulder right now to kind of see what people are doing. You kind of are in service. You're like a chauffeur on the course. So you're in service to whoever you're in charge of pacing. So you may have a pace set, like 2:24 pace like we were told was going to be run today by the women. But you have to read the room. You have to look. Are these ladies on my tail? Are they ready to run that? Or are they sagging off a bit? You're kind of making it up on the fly, encouraging, and also reading what the group is ready to do.
so if the group is kind of dialed back a bit, do you adjust? How much do you adjust it by?
I would just play it by ear. You have to just be ready to kind of throw out whatever the plan was if the group isn't following. It's tricky because you're not hired to run a certain pace. You're hired to help the athletes along. So you kind of have to trust whatever they're doing. I personally would just kind of read it, and it looks like Kevin's really checking his over his shoulder frequently here. We have a 5K split for the men, 15:39, which on the app is showing me as 5:02 mile pace. They're giving us mile pace for that. So again, behind schedule, but so early, not really important yet. We'll see what they do as the race progresses, but it's nice to see that first 5K to me is like a great, like, okay, warm up, extension of the warm-up's over. We're starting to kind of get into our flow and rhythm. See if we can get an elite women split here shortly.
Yeah, it seems like they're just hitting for 5K right now. So about 17:20
Yep.
for the women here.
I can't do that math that quickly on what that pace is, but let's see
Yeah,
if they update it.
I think it is around sort of that 225, 226.
Personal fluids, as we can see them grabbing here. Even our pacers need personal fluids if they're going to take them a long way. So Kevin Coffey hydrating up, getting his carbohydrates in. A lot of people don't know, maybe watching at home, what these athletes are consuming. So in a race like the marathon, after about 90 minutes, if you took nothing, your body would quickly deteriorate. It'd run out of its glycogen stores, sugar. So what these athletes are taking is usually something really rich in carbohydrates, simple sugar, glucose, maltodextrin, something like that, and some light electrolytes like sodium. And they're consuming something that they've been training with. There's many different brands out there, but the idea, a lot of these, in recent years, the science has gotten a lot stronger. They're probably trying to take in 60 to 80 grams at minimum of carbohydrates per hour on the course. So for the athletes running for a 3-hour marathon, they're consuming a lot of calories on the course. Athletes running around 2 hours still consuming a lot of calories because they're burning at a very high rate here.
So what's your preference? Do you just like fluids or do you add gels?
I like gels, and I'm sure a lot of these athletes are gels and fluids as well. So I take a bottle every time, but I will often tape a gel to it and alternate every 5K between just gel and just fluids or gel and fluids.
Another beautiful shot of the mass field going out there.
Women were 3:26 at 5K for the split of that kilometer, and 17:35 it looks like is the official 5K split.
At the kind of the lead, in front of the lead women's pack there, is Canadian Arnaud Franconi from Montreal. She's one of the top Canadian marathoners in this year's field. He has a personal best of 2:25 in Valencia.
Valencia is obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but it is known amongst the elite running community as one of the fastest races, if not the fastest races in the world every year. Pancake flat, beautiful conditions, Valencia, Spain. So it'll be very impressive if he can run around the same time on a course like Ottawa today.
Valencia is one of the deepest fields in the world. Like you really just alluded to, it draws a lot of the top athletes wanting to chase Olympic standard times. And 2:25 is a very respectable marathon time. But this year at the Valencia Marathon, his time was 278th overall.
Yeah, 277 people were faster than him on that day. And this is a guy that's probably leading his local run club or winning local 5Ks and 10Ks regularly. So just to show you how elite and deep the sport is on an international level at a marathon like that, or like this. We'll see how he does today.
The men are approaching probably around the 7-kilometer mark right now. still about 6 or 7 athletes in the pack.
Yeah, I personally like this for our entertainment value of this product. It's just going to make it so that people are in it late with the slower first few kilometers, and I'm anxious to see if things shake up here. It's nice that we have like 3 kits at the front that are about the exact same. Makes it challenging for us to identify the athletes. But on the far right is Robert Tremongas with the orange bottoms. On the far left is Felix Tremongas with the black bottoms, and then our pacer is in the middle of those 3. So it may be confusing to have 3 of the exact same kits up there, but we have 1 is a pacer and 2 are the Tremongas of Uganda.
Another fun fact about Felix Tremongas is he's very good friends with Jacob Kiplimo, who's one of the best sort of distance runners in the world right now.
World record holder, world champion in cross country.
I personally think that he has not stepped up to the marathon yet. I know Joshua Cheptegei has in Valencia. But I think Kiplimo might be one of those runners that can maybe flirt with that elusive 2-hour barrier.
Yes, although we're not going to see anything near that today. It is obviously the pinnacle of the sport at the fastest of races. We are edging ever closer to a man breaking the 2-hour barrier, which 5 years ago, 6 years ago would have been thought of as impossible. And we saw Eliud Kipchoge kind of start that movement towards trying to break the 2-hour barrier.
So we have a men's 7K split at 3:07.
Yeah, so they're running consistent from where they started. It doesn't seem like they're the 3:02 per kilometer, like I alluded to early in the broadcast. 2:08 pace is the plan anymore. This is probably what they're going to stick with for at least the first half of the race, I would assume. So long as the pacer's in, I don't think that they'll randomly surge here now 7K into the race. 7-8K into the race. It seems unlikely. I'm guessing that they're just happy to be in contention for the win and work together for as long as they can. Although I will say, it seems like in the last few moments, there's a small gap forming within this group. We have the 4 athletes kind of tucked in together, and then it seems like there's 2 slowly edging off this pace. So maybe they've picked it up, or maybe those athletes started a little bit ambitiously.
So I think they're heading into the experimental farm.
Which is a new portion of the Ottawa Marathon this year.
Right.
A little downhill portion of the course. They're going to be going back up eventually, as Rory alluded to earlier. It's a much more hillier course this year, with over 200 meters of elevation gain. Hillier than the Boston Marathon, but not hillier than the Paris Olympic Marathon, which is later this year that Rory Winkler will be competing in. I was reading that was over 400 meters of elevation gain in Paris?
Yes. So, 200 meters is a lot in a marathon. 400 meters is obviously a lot. It's a ton. So these athlete splits, as we get them, might be all over the place as they run in through these hills. And you can kind of see in this lead woman pack off in the distance that they just crested a hill of sorts. So maybe that's been a factor in these early splits as they hit that first hill in the farms. So. And
the 8K split was a 3:14, so slightly slower.
Yeah, that
which
must have
accounts
been
for
up
the
that
hill.
Yeah. The first of the 3 major hills along the course. That one had a 6% grade, I think, is what
it did. Yeah.
Donna, you're an established coach. When you have an athlete training for sort of a hillier marathon, how much sort of hill work are you throwing into, like, let's say, their weekly training plan?
I mean, it depends where, what the starting point is. If, you want to do a lot of strength work. That's the basis for running hills, is you need to be strong. So, yeah, strength work in the gym never hurts. And then, yeah, just throwing in weekly hill runs, hill repeats, or just throwing in hilly runs on your long, easy runs. Just getting your legs used to not just the uphill, but the downhill.
Yeah, that eccentric loading
Yeah.
of the downhills is usually what will get these athletes late in the race, is they're beating up their legs on every downhill. So I haven't seen any major downhills yet, so that's nice that there's not too much of that early in the race, because that can be what sneaks up to you later in the race.
If you're just joining us here and joining the stream late, welcome to the 2024 Ottawa Tartan Homes International Marathon presented by Rogers TV. We're here with Rory Linkletter, who was second in the Canadian 10K Championships last night on this Ottawa course that runs along the Rideau Canal. What was that like?
It was beautiful. I mean, the crowd support was immaculate. We had a great night of running that saw a Canadian record in the 10K. The champion Ben Flanagan, who is one of Canada's greatest distance runners of all time, in my opinion, ran a really strong race for running 28:09. So we know these roads are capable of running fast on. We know the weather is good this weekend because we saw a record fall last night. So we have record-breaking weather conditions, which is something you don't normally get at the end of May here in Ottawa. So we are thankful that we have gotten favorable conditions as we run through the 9K split here in 28:20. That means they're probably on pace still with those 3:07s, I would guess, because if they run another 3:07, they'd be around 31:20-ish. Which means they're still running 15:40 per 5K, which is not a slow pace by any means, but for these guys, it's a pedestrian pace, and it'll make for some very exciting racing later.
We were talking about the Canadian Championships at the Ottawa 10K. Ben Flanagan, an exceptional talent, a lot of success on the road.
Yeah.
Setting a Canadian record on Canadian soil, that must have been a very special experience.
Yeah, I think anytime you can show out on home soil, it is even more special than if you do it abroad. And obviously, we take great pride in Ottawa race weekend in general, and the fact that this race puts on and shows a world-class field, this capital city we have here in Canada, it's really just quite a testament to the types of athletes that are here this weekend. And
So you might note we have one runner running over to the left.
The Felix Chimangas.
Yeah, seems like he wants to run on softer ground, possibly.
yeah, I'm wondering if he's just enjoying the little shoulder that he has there. But yeah, there's two athletes moving over to the left and then a bunch to the right. I wonder if there's a turn coming up, if that's part of the...
It could just be running the tangents. I mean, a very important thing to do in the marathon to save yourself a lot of time.
Yeah, with how many turns there are on the course.
So that's a 9K mark.
That's for the half marathon. They already passed the 9K for the full. I think I saw that. The blue ones indicate half, and the orange flags indicate the full.
The half marathon will be beginning at 8:30.
I think it's 9 a.m. Is it? 8:30?
8:30. For those joining the stream.
Muay looks really good at this stage. I mean, everybody should be, but I say at 10K, you probably know what kind of legs you have on the day. You've burnt through that initial carbo-loading glycogen in your muscles. A lot of these athletes have probably been eating a lot of rice, pasta over the last couple nights, and I think around the 10K mark, you kind of know where your legs are for the day, and you're assessing what adjustments you may have to make to your plan or tricks you may have to play on yourself just to get through the next 32K of this race.
Muay has a personal best of 2:06:40 from the Eindhoven Marathon in 2019. Fun fact about him is he's an avid handball player, European handball.
I didn't know that.
He's a little of taller stature, and and I imagine that kind of very helpful. I don't know much about European handball, but I feel like being tall and being able to kind of throw the ball and get to unique angles is definitely helpful.
Yeah, and I didn't know that was a sport that Kenyan athletes would find themselves. I personally have never played handball, so maybe Mutai, if he's got the legs for it, can show me a couple tricks after the race. And it looks like the women group is at, I can see 3 athletes. It was 4. I think we only have 3 in that group now.
Yeah, one seems to drop back. We still have Ethiopia's Maragu Halem in that field wearing the green Nike singlet.
And the 9K women's split was a 3:25 pace.
Consistent with what they've been. And I have a 10K split for the men. It's 31:26, which means their last 5K was 15:46. Their first 5K was around 15:40. So I think with the hill, they're running a consistent effort. This looks like a beautiful addition to the course. I kind of like when the course kind of presents a little bit of a different environment. You have along the city in the loud parts, and then here you have probably a much quieter. I haven't seen many fans out near the farm here, but it looks like beautiful green grasslands, both sides of the road. I imagine that this road seems to be well maintained as well. I don't see any potholes, which seems like a small plus, but I really enjoy really smooth tarmac. When I'm running these marathons, it's kind of like a deceptive plus up for a course. So this is beautiful roads here and farms.
It's a good portion of the course too to not have a lot of spectators in. I mean, you want the spectators to be in late in the race
when you're really hurting.
Yeah. And the beautiful finish here at the Ottawa Marathon, where you come along the canal and finish right
It'll be
behind
loud.
Ottawa City Hall. But yeah, it'll be amazing.
For everybody too. Those fans are out there for hours, so it'll be a really exciting atmosphere for our top finishers as well as our Boston qualifiers and our first-time marathoners.
Ottawa has a huge running community. One of the most popular run clubs in the city is Ottawa City Run Club. They hosted their shakeout run yesterday, a part of Run Ottawa, and had over 400 runners show up.
That's remarkable.
And in the winter, the local runners use this experimental farm to do a lot of the run training and workouts.
Yeah, it looks like just a beautiful flat section of the course.
I see Lee Waselius always uploading his runs around this farm, so he's a local legend here in the Ottawa area. Just ran 2:16 in Copenhagen, and is one of Canada's best marathoners. So
It was also from New Brunswick.
Yeah, if he's using this course to train on, this part of the course to train on, it must be a quite nice area.
Waselius is a veterinarian, a big animal veterinarian.
Yeah,
so he travels from farms to farms.
Yeah.
Yes. He says he starts his day at usually 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning to get his mileage out, and then works all day and doubles at night. Incredible. Waselius was last year's top Canadian at the Tartan Homes Ottawa International Marathon.
Yeah. Here's Kevin Coffey leading the women. Looks like he's got a small gap, so maybe he's trying to keep.
He's got lots of hand signals going.
Yeah, he's trying to keep these girls on it, and it's obviously tough when you've got a group of 3 just to kind of read the energy of the group. And it looks like the men that were kind of helping him lead this group unintentionally have kind of been wavering in pace here as they're at the back of that group. So it will likely be the 3 women following Kevin Coffey's large frame here for the next few kilometers. Hopefully they can work together. They can find their appropriate pace at this stage. Again, once you pass 10K, you know where you're at in your body, and you're probably just dialing into a rhythm.
just to give some more context on the weather here, Coffee is probably a good runner to follow on a windy day since he's, very tall and it can kind of protect a lot of these runners from the wind. It's not too windy out there today. Only at the start it was 5 kilometers an hour.
That's nothing.
Winds, which is usually a blessing from, from the marathon gods. It was a cool sort of 15 degrees as well. Ideal conditions for a lot of these runners.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect any better this time of year. So these athletes are probably going to try to take advantage of that here today.
So we have a 10K split for the women. They came through at 34:47.
Let's see how that compares to their first
It was
5K.
The second 5K seemed to be just a tad faster. It does seem like Coffee is very trying to get everyone to dial into the pace that he's setting there.
Yeah.
At 224, 225.
Yeah, so here I have, I'm a bet having run 17:39 through the first 5K and 17:13 through the second 5K. So on our tracking app here, we have 34:52 as the official split. They did speed up, which is interesting considering the men slowed down because of the hill in that portion.
If you're just joining us, this is the presentation of the 2024 Ottawa Race Weekend Tartan Homes International Marathon on Rogers TV.
Both groups just rolling along. 3 women. I think we have 6 men in this group with the pacer 7. I'd have to get a head count here.
And the men just picked it up. The 12K split is a 3:02.
Okay, that's the split
So-
that we were expecting to see early. Maybe they just needed an 11K warm-up. We'll see if that surge of pace changes the group at all. Mutai, to me, early, has looked the most relaxed and consistent. He's got a beautiful gait. Looks like he's just out for a morning stroll. And we see some fan support as they enter a more residential area after the farms. So it'll be a welcomed surge of energy for these athletes.
In the part of the men's 6-pack of 7 runners here is Ethiopia's Tesfaye Mbesa, who's probably one of the most consistent marathoners in the field. He's been 209 or better in his last 4 races.
And that tells me that he knows how to run marathons. He knows how to execute a race plan, and his range of outcomes is becoming tighter, and it's only a matter of time before he has a breakthrough performance. You can see this is a pretty significant downhill, I'd say, that these lead women are running right now, if my eyes don't deceive me.
What's the technique, you think, to running, or keeping your stride, or keeping your cadence downhill? What are you telling yourself, not to exert too much energy?
Don't pump the brakes. Let your body, let gravity do its work. Relax your breathing. I find the hardest thing at this stage of a race, if there's a big downhill, is you can kind of get short in your breath because you're bracing for impact with every stride. If you find yourself doing that, shake out the arms, relax the breathing, and just let your legs flow with the downhill. Keep the cadence high.
We don't have any reports on how the top Canadian seeds are doing just yet, but hopefully we get some coverage on them and we can give some updates.
The fastest Canadian in the field is Sergio Reyes Villanueva, who won the Vancouver Marathon just 4 weeks ago. He ran a time of
2:22, I believe, for the win.
2:22:45.
And I can tell you his 10K split. That'll give us some reference on how he's doing. It was 32:50, which Sergio ran the 10K last night as part of the Canadian Championships in 31:05. So not far off his 10K time last night. He's out strong. That's pretty much close to personal best pace so far for him. So he's clearly feeling pretty good at the early stages of this race, as he is our top Canadian in the field right now and 10th overall. But he is running stride for stride with Daniel Zudu at this point. So there's two Canadians working together, and Rachel Hanna also has already recorded her 10K split. She is 37:18 through 10K. She was 18:26 through 5K. So it seems like she's pacing herself through at about 2:35 pace at the moment, 2:35, 2:36, which is about what she had scheduled. So I'm assuming she's just letting her body guide this early stage, knowing that she has run a spring marathon, the LA Marathon, earlier this spring, which was also a very hilly course. So she is probably as prepared as anybody for these hills.
Hannah trains in Port Elgin, Ontario, coached by her partner, Joe Chappell. She's being paced today by Canadian athlete Josh Ziles, who ran with the University of Windsor. Another fun fact about Hannah, she's a registered dietitian and does a column, has previously done a column in Canadian running.
Yeah, she's works with a lot of athletes on their pre-race, post-race, during race nutrition. So I know she's very dialed into what she's doing out there on the course as we see the athletes grabbing their bottles frequently here. This is something that is a big component of elite marathoning, learning how to fuel, learning how to manage your energy levels and keep your fuel tank full.
I spoke to Hannah. I made my marathon debut a few weeks ago at the Georgina Marathon, where Rachel Hanna won the half. She used that sort of half marathon as a prep here for Ottawa. She ran 1:17, which is sort of, again, sort of that 2:34, 2:35 mark would be sort of the aid goal for Hannah today in Ottawa.
And Rachel's debut marathon was actually here in Ottawa in 2015. She ran a 2:33:30. She was the first Canadian at that time and 10th overall. So we'll see what she does.
As we can see here on, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
That's
this
okay.
is, I'm excited about what we're seeing here, or concerned maybe is the better word. Felix Tremongas seems to be dropped from this lead pack. He was our pre-race favorite. Maybe he's experiencing some sort of hiccup with his stride. Maybe he's got a cramp coming off one of the downhills or uphills. We'll see if he rallies and gets reconnected with the group here shortly. But that is quite the development if we're going to have something like that happen this early in the race. A favorite dropping off 45 minutes into a marathon isn't unheard of, but it does change the dynamic for these guys as if we dwindle down the pack of 7 to 6.
Yeah, you can see his stride there. He's looking a little tight, sort of in his upper body. Maybe it could be a little side stitch. If you get something that early, Rory, what's something that you can try to do to kind of shake it off?
I would say the number one thing is to just relax your breath, just to try to make it as easy as possible, breathe through it. That's the only thing that seems to work is to kind of just relax into that tension you're feeling. And yeah, I can't tell based on the current view we have if he's reconnected or closing that gap. We have a pretty head-on view, but it looks like there's still some gap there. And like I said earlier, Mutai looks relaxed, Robert Tremongas looks very relaxed. The Ethiopian contingency of 3 in that group looks very, very relaxed. They haven't really touched the front of the group. It's been mostly Mutai and Tremongas in these early stages. And those 3 athletes, maybe 4 in that group, have just been kind of lurking in the shadows of the group.
And the men are running a 3:04 pace right now.
maybe we could get a view of top Canadian male Zudu here shortly. Yep, here he is, right on Corey Belmore, which means Sergio has dropped off of Zudu, and he looks composed, and Corey Belmore towing him along 46 minutes into this race. Belmore also a great pacer for something like this because of his larger stature, being a miler and a more power endurance-based athlete. So Zudu's probably enjoying every kilometer he can get running in Corey Belmore's tow.
Zudu came to Canada actually as a refugee. He was he now trains out of BC, but he was originally from Sudan. He had to flee Sudan, trying to escape the war. He has a dream of one day running and competing for Canada in the marathon.
A race like Ottawa can be a great springboard into his marathon career, making that a possibility down the road. So hopefully he gains great experience on the course today, takes advantage of the conditions we have here on Ottawa race weekend, and can make the most of this day. He looks great so far. I mean, it's still super early, but it's good to see him just kind of tucked in on Corey Belmore here.
Yeah, he looks very smooth. He's coached and training he has a very good mentor. He is coached and guided by former Canadian Olympic marathoner Bruce Deacon in Victoria.
Okay, yeah. Bruce Deacon is a Canadian legend in the marathon scene, so that is great guidance, and I would feel very confident that he's well prepared for today if Bruce Deacon is guiding his training. And it does look like if we can get the lead men camera, Felix is pretty far back still. That gap has not closed down, and if anything, it's opening up as we see an Ethiopian athlete. Is that, who do we have there?
Looks like Indessa.
Indessa. So he's one of the pre-race favorites as well. He's now in the lead, which is early to see him touch the lead without a pacer in front of him. But I'm guessing there's been an injection of pace of sorts here. We'll get some splits here. The 15K split should be available to us, and maybe
it's a 3:06, so the third 5K split was a 15:25.
So they did speed up. Yeah, that's a 3:05 per K. They were more like 3:07, 3:08 through 10K. So a small surge of pace, even though it's subtle, 2 seconds per kilometer, that can be substantial once you're already into the rhythm and flow of a marathon at this point.
And Bessa, as we talked a little bit to before, and Bessa is one of the probably most consistent marathoners in the men's field. His top finish comes with a second place result at the Xiamen Marathon in China, which is probably, again, something like Valencia, where it draws a lot of those elite marathoners too.
Yeah. Anytime you're racing in such a big international marathon overseas for these athletes that are from Ethiopia and Uganda and Kenya, they're traveling very far and wide to get to these races, and they don't mess around. They're here to do business, and so whether it be on North American shores or in China, if he's here to do something special.
If we can check out the women's lead group, it looks like one of the runners kind of fell off the pace there, and the lead group is down to 2 athletes.
Still being towed by 2 sub-elite men and Kevin Coffey. Been this way since the onset, but yeah, we have 2 athletes, one in the Adidas kit. Let's confirm who that is for you. That's Marigu Halem in the Adidas kit right behind Coffey. So one of the pre-race favorites. Not a surprise there.
The man in the sunglasses beside Coffey is Montreal's Arnaud Franconi. He ran at the University of Montreal and now is a coach there with the cross-country and track program. He's obviously he's very interested in running. If you come at a university and you kind of get back into coaching. He won the Team Spirit Award 3 of his 4 seasons with the University of Montreal. So, very, very good team guy, and it seems like he really loves the sport. Running well here early on.
The lead men just broke off another, as we have the first out and back section of the course. As mentioned by Donna in the pre-race course preview, you could see 2 men have been dropped from this group now, so dwindling it down to 4 at the moment. We'll try to get a name on who has been dropped off of this group, along with Felix, but down to 4 athletes as they head along the longest straightaway of the course. So this is going to be where the rhythm is very important along the course. They're going to probably be clipping off some of their fastest splits here in the next 5K or so, I would guess.
The pacer seems to have dropped off as well of the lead men's pack.
Which is earlier than normal.
Very early on. Usually pacers have to go a certain distance before they drop off.
Usually at least half marathon, up to 30K is common. So maybe he had a tough day. But hey, now it's a race. No more pacing. We'll let these athletes kind of sort themselves out, and who had the best training block is going to be evident over the next 10K or so, as I'm assuming they'll find their own rhythm. And like I said earlier, I think Mutai looks extremely relaxed here. Haven't noticed even the least bit of struggle in his gait as we approach 20K in the next, 5 to 10 minutes here. You're approaching the halfway point in the next 12 minutes. The race has begun in the sense of we've got 4 now. We've had 2 guys drop, and it's going to be interesting to see when these guys start changing, leads and pace, what happens in the next few kilometers.
When the pacer kind of drops out early, does any sort of panic go through the mind of these athletes? Or are they just like, okay, we'll keep it rolling at this particular pace, or who's going to lead this thing?
I think what happens is whoever feels the best is just going to find themselves towards the front. So I'm looking at Mutai and
Mbessa, yes.
Mbessa, yes. And they look like they've just feel very comfortable leading this race. And they are 2 of the more established marathoners in the field, so it's no surprise. But it's also nice for the athletes behind them, Robert Chimangas, being just right in their toe, not having to do any of the leading. If he's feeling good, he's conserving energy now and hopefully going to be able to take advantage of that in the later stages of the race as we hit the hillier portions and are able to see what shakes out here. That's Adamu Getahan in the lining kit on the far left, the 4th runner that we have not yet mentioned in this pack. Also of Ethiopia. He's in this lead group.
He's based out of Toronto and hasn't broken 2010, but his personal best is from the 2020 is recent. It's from the 2023 Tel Aviv Marathon in Israel of 2:11:24.
I like seeing an athlete show recent form. I think that's more important than a lifetime best. A lot of these athletes maybe haven't run a marathon in a few years or haven't run a personal best in a few years. If you're showing me, you're close to your best form in the recent marathons you've done, your trajectory is in the right place, and I think makes you a dangerous athlete on race day.
The last split here at 17K was 3:06 for the men.
Consistent with where they've been for most of the race. And I can't tell in our lead women if we have 1 athlete or 2 athletes tucked in. And you got, I see 2, yes. They're just very well disguised by our 2 male athletes on the left. But there's 1 running right behind Kevin Coffey and 1 running behind the other 2 male athletes on the left side. So there's 2 athletes competing stride for stride right now, 55 minutes into this marathon. Again, between 15 and 20K into the race, should be very within themselves still.
The athlete right behind Kevin Coffey, the pacer, is Marigu Halem, 25. She was former teammates with Latenza Gide of Ethiopia. A very impressive 10,000 meter runner. Just held the 10,000 meter world record until it was
Until last night.
It was broken at the Eugene Diamond League by world cross country champion Beatrice Chebet, who was the first woman to break 29 minutes.
Yeah, so for our race with Halem training with Giddy, I like to see that just similar to Muay here in the men's race. When you ran with some of the best runners in the world, you know, that greatness rubs off on you and you learn from the best. And so I would not be surprised if she's a piece of the puzzle for the win here as she's in the final 2 women in S lead pack. And we'll watch closely to see how she does here. But the men are still rolling along the parkway here in a group of 4 with 5th and 6th no longer really in sight of our view, so we can assume they are no longer in contention for the win unless something catastrophic happens in this group of 4. But generally speaking, in road running, the pack always wins.
Mm-hmm. The other female in the lead pack here is Embet Negasis, who is a personal best of 2:26:41 from the Rome Marathon just 3 months ago. Another fun fact about Negasis is she's on TikTok. She's a TikToker, which I guess is a very important thing now for, you know, a lot of the younger marathoners, just to be present on social media and have that kind of background.
Yeah, we love to see, you know, sharing with the fans and growing your platform here.
So a couple of splits coming in here. The women's 15K split was a 3:25 pace, and the 18K split for the men is 3:02.
Okay, yeah.
So
sorry, Al,
That's
this
been
battery
moving.
is
They're
dead
picking
as
it up.
well, so I'll need to swap this out if you can get on.
And we just saw Zudu. We weren't talking about his race yet, but I'm going to get a 15K split for our lead Canadian male. Let's see what he was at 15K to give us an idea of what kind of pace he's on. He was 48:47 through 15K, which was his fastest 5K split of the race at 15:58. He is still running in that like 2:17, 2:18 pace, following Belmore. So encouraging signs from him. Looks like he's having a great day, and we'll see if Sergio is far behind as he's the next runner. Zudu's in 9th, Sergio is in 10th through 15K, and it looks like Sergio is 49:30 through 15K, which would mean he is only 43 seconds behind Zudu. So at this stage, depending on what the efforts these athletes are putting in, that's a substantial gap, but it's not a unclosable gap if Sergio knows what his body's capable of and is able to maintain that consistent pace, and see if Zudu is able to maintain this pace as well.
Zudu ran his first marathon just 5-6 months ago at the California International Marathon, which is a big staple race for a lot of the U.S.-based marathoners for U.S. Olympic trials, which was earlier this year.
Yes, CIM, I've done it before. I've been second in that race before. It's a great place to debut your marathon. It's a great place to get reliable weather in December because it's in California, so you get usually pretty good weather that time of year there. So Zudu probably chose that knowing that it was a good place to run. Bruce Deacon probably a big part in that decision making as he's an experienced marathoner himself. So great place for him to debut, and a great place for him to run his first marathon on Canadian soil here in Ottawa.
The men's pack here seems to be 4 athletes.
Blake, you might want to use the USB cable.
and they're just at the top of Parkway Hill at the 19K mark with a 3:03 split. So very consistent.
I think this will be their fastest 5K of the race, though, based on these last 2 splits we've seen, which is good. Pacer's no longer in there, and they're letting their bodies tell them what is appropriate here, and I think that's encouraging at this stage, that they're running their fastest once the pacer steps off. And between 10 and 15K, Emabet Nguses ran her fastest 5K as well. So the men and women lead packs both kind of progressing their paces as the race moves along, which is, I think, very encouraging for what is to come if athletes are getting faster as the 5K splits roll on here in this race.
In the women's lead pack here with the Canadian sub-elites, Arnaud Franconi seems to be taking the front here and putting a little surge on.
Yeah, for him, he's worried about his own race. He's not assigned to pace these women like Kevin Coffey is. So if you're Kevin Coffey pacing these elite women, it's important for you to make sure that they know you're there for them. These guys are running their own race. Let's just focus on what's going to get us to the later stages of the race, competing with each other and not necessarily being roped into whatever may be happening with these men that are racing each other.
You see the men passing a lot of the mass field along the side there. I found from just road racing and doing out and backs, it's really cool to pass a lot of the mass field because you get people cheering for you, and it's when you get some uplifting remarks and to kind of keep going, keep pushing, and people cheering you on.
Yeah, it's always exciting, and it looks like we have along this parkway here, I would assume a surge of pace because our group, as they are grabbing some water right now, and the lead men, is clearly fragmenting here as all four runners seem to be separating. So I would guess we have a pretty decent move made here from our leader.
This is Faye Bessa. Yes, he's run 2:09 or below in his last 4 marathons. Yeah, we've talked about it earlier.
This is going to be his breakthrough here in Ottawa if he can win this one. He was second in his last marathon in China, like we had mentioned earlier. It's clearly looking good for him right now, and Mutai seems to be our latest casualty in struggles, as he's the last runner in this group of 4 that's strung itself out here as we're running up a decent little hill here. As you can see, the gradient has changed. And I'm encouraged also by our athlete in second right now.
We should get a halfway split coming up on the clock here. They should be splitting around sort of probably 104 high, which, considering the tough course, is a very, very fast and consistent split on this day.
Yeah, Adamu Getahum, the one in second, tucking right in on Tesfaye and Bessa. 24 years old. He's young. We mentioned he was based out of Toronto. He hasn't broken 2:10 yet, but his 2:11 at Tel Aviv is encouraging. I think this is a breakthrough race for both of our top 2 competitors right now, as they're on pace for PB relatively and looking very strong at nearing the halfway point and making this race a 2-man race, it looks like, a little earlier than we would have anticipated. But, with the hills of Ottawa, these things can break up in a moment's notice.
Yeah, Robert Chimanga seems to be just a little bit off the back there. He's a very veteran marathoner and he's used to the hills from his mountain trail running background. I wonder if he's telling himself in his head right now just to be conservative for what's ahead. We know there's a lot of hills sort of around that 30K to 32K mark coming back into the city.
Yeah, the hardest portion of this course is the last 10K, last 15K, so there's certainly opportunity for someone who's dropped off now, if they're running within themselves and not hurting yet, to close gaps later. We should be getting our halfway split any moment. This looks like, yep, they just went over some timing mats. So 105.30, so they're on 211 pace right now if the mats are placed at half marathon, as I would assume.
We'll get the exact half split for you when we have it. That's a pretty swift split for considering the course. But I imagine with Bessa's experience, that he's probably going to be, so this is the time to pick up the pace a little bit, and especially with the pacer dropping it a little early, and take over the race.
Yeah, I think we're still in the modest pace range for some of these athletes. I would not be surprised if we see in another insurgent of pace from one of these two athletes over the next 5-10 kilometers, especially when it's down to two athletes like we have here in both of the elite fields, the men and women. It's down to two. You can kind of start playing games, even though it's early. These athletes are here to win. So I'm not necessarily concerned too much with the split as I am reading my competitors, reading my own body, looking for advantages where I can find them along this course. And with the women, they at least still have their pacer, so they're probably going to bite their time a bit more. But with the men, no pacer out there. It's all up to them on how they want to run this last half of the race.
So talking about the top spots, we'll go back to the prize money. The top 6 elite win prize money. First place being $8,000. Second is $3,000. Third is $1,800. There is also a marathon record bonus of $10,000.
We're not on pace for that
Not
at the
on
moment.
pace for that, but the male pace for that is 2:06.04,
We would have to see an incredible second half,
and the female is 2:22.17.
which I was notified that the course record was a big negative split, though. They ran 64 minutes through half and then 62 minutes in the second half.
Wow.
So historically, the Ottawa Marathon favors someone who's patient in the first half and is able to push in the second half through the hills.
The men just coming kind of down Parliament Hill here. A look at the
Beautiful
back
shot
of
here.
the Chateau Laurier. One of the oldest hotels in Ottawa. It probably feels good to come back into the city and hear the support and the roar, knowing that you're going out to come back in and really fast on that second half. You know?
Yeah, it's especially helpful for our athletes in third and fourth that we can still see in frame. I think you can start to feel sorry for yourself when you're running alone in a marathon, especially this early. And usually the crowd is the most encouraging of that, you know, telling you, don't give up, keep on it, you know, close that gap. And I think Robert Chimangas and Mutai are both still within sight, and if they're running within themselves, should have plenty of reason to stay engaged at this stage of the race and just keep their eyes up on the road and try to work together. If they can group up, I'd be really encouraged to see Mutai and Chimangas join forces kind of and keep the lead two runners in sight.
We have a great shot of the women's lead pack here being paced by Kingston, Ontario's Kevin Coffey.
He's having a great time, which is what we want to see out of our pacers. He's clearly relaxed still at the 69-minute mark of this race, and as we probably approach 20K shortly here for the women.
He's a very animated pacer,
Yeah.
pointing out every little pothole, every little crack.
Yeah, it's important because sometimes when you're a larger athlete like Kevin Coffey, who just missed his bottle, the athletes behind you might just be staring at your back. So if you can point out maybe a divot in the road that they may not be as keenly aware of, you can prevent someone from, you know, rolling an ankle or something unfortunate happening. So that's his job, is to just be their chaperones on this beautiful morning in Ottawa. Oh, here we got some misters just in case you're warm, but these elite athletes are not worried about that right now, and they just avoid the puddles on the course.
Yeah, the conditions today are quite great for marathon running, with a cool 15 degrees at start and not pretty much next to no wind.
Yeah.
Obviously,
And
you know,
overcast, too.
Kevin here missing his bottle. Luckily, the 2-1 behind him got their bottle.
Yes.
But what happens if you do miss your bottle?
Try not to let it rally you. You know, you have 8 opportunities to get fluids. I almost count on one not being an option on the race course because things happen. You reach for it, you knock it over. You don't see it until the last minute, and it's too much of an effort to get over to it. I rarely go 8 for 8 in a marathon on bottles. Usually one falls casualty. So you just can't freak out. And if they're experienced marathoners, they know that. You just maybe nurse your next bottle a little bit more.
So would you put more fluid in your bottles than what you would want, just in case that happens?
Oh, yeah, you always put probably twice as much as you need. At least I do, knowing like I'm probably not going to finish what I have in my bottle, but I want to have the option there. And if I want to hold that bottle for an extra K or so if I had missed the previous one, and just kind of keep sipping. There's ways to overcome that loss, and sometimes athletes will even, you know, have a gel on hand in the event that they miss a bottle, so that they can pull that out and get the calories in at the timing that they intended. So I would always carry one gel on my persons, just so that I can grab that if I miss a bottle on course.
So we have a women's 20K split, 3:22 pace for a total of 1:09:13.
Yeah, there seems like they're right on sort of that 2:25 pace set by Kevin Coffey. We'll be getting a half split coming in the next few minutes from the lead women's group. In the men's group, the last split was 3:02, so the pace has picked up.
Yeah, they're running 2:08 pace now. This is what we were supposed to see from the gun, but hey, it's happening now, and maybe we'll get there with a nice negative split if they can run 63 minutes in the second half and cut the 2 minutes off like our course record did. They could still hit that target of 2:08 that they set out to. And I'm trying to get a good view of who, if Mutai is now in third or Chimangas is. I think I can see Chimangas between the two athletes back, but it seems like there's good, yeah, Chimangas still in third, Mutai in fourth, and we'll keep an eye on that gap and give you an update on how far back they are, because that's going to be an important thing to key off of in the late stages, because what can happen here is in a marathon you can crack at any moment, and those athletes in third and fourth can move up a place.
A major move being made in the women's race right now. It seems that one of the athletes is beginning to fall off.
If we can get a camera on the elite women right now, that would be helpful to show this breaking up of the top two. Here we are.
There we go.
Mergu Halem of Ethiopia seems to be falling off sort of the lead pack there, led by Mbed Nagus, who has a personal best of 2:26, just kind of behind Kevin Coffey there. Seems like they're getting a half marathon split here of 1:13:22. We'll get you the official time when we have it. Seems like they're on 2:26 pace, which would be a personal best possibly for Nagus. Her personal best was just 3 months ago at the 2024 Rome Marathon. So she's in good shape. She knows what shape she's in. So I think it's a very conservative opening half for her, and it should be interesting to see kind of if she can maintain this pace for the second half. The gap seems to be probably about 100 meters, it looks like, on the course, with Halem just a little far back, a little back there, probably, you know, about 30 or so seconds behind the Naguses. The official split for 21.1 for the lead woman is 1:13 flat. So she's currently on pace for a personal best. But obviously, as athletes kind of drop from the lead group, it does become tougher. But I do think Kevin Coffey is a very experienced pacer and should be able to take her to sort of 35K. He did pace the lead women's group at the other World Athletics label marathon in Canada in the fall, the Toronto Waterfront Marathon. Donna, have you had the chance to visit Toronto during the Toronto Waterfront Marathon?
I have not.
It's also a really great race for a lot of runners. It sold out last year. You know, probably over, again, around sort of 30,000 going to Toronto for the race. Draws a lot of big name athletes every year, and acts as the Canadian Marathon Championships.
So the women are running through downtown right now, so hopefully getting some excitement from the crowd. And past the Laurier Hotel.
The lead Canadian still is British Columbia's Daniel Zudu, who's being paced by beer mile world record holder Corey Belmore. He's looking absolutely smooth here. We'll try to get a pace for you for Zudu of what sort of pace he's on right now. But following a guy like Corey, who's just so experienced, not only on the track and with the beer mile, but he's coming off his first half Ironman a few weeks ago in Tennessee. The lead men's pack here seems to be hitting the hills a little bit, sort of around the 24-25K mark.
And the 24K men's split is 3:05.
Yeah, these hills look substantial at this portion of the course, and we're going to have to see what the gap is back to third. But this is probably where, if there's going to be a time in the race where those third and fourth place finishers can close the gap, it's through these tougher portions if they can remain strong and take advantage of the terrain.
I'm being told that Rachel Hanna is still the lead Canadian woman. We'll hopefully get a picture on her soon and let you know sort of her progress as she comes through halfway. But Daniel Zudu of British Columbia is currently the top Canadian male in the race. Mentored by former Canadian marathoner Bruce Deacon.
Former Ottawa Marathon champion Bruce Deacon, actually. I believe he won it in 1999 or 2000. You have to fact check me on that one, but I know he is a past champion. So he knows the city of Ottawa and how to run a marathon here.
Yeah, and maybe one or two things about running.
Yeah.
A good mentor to have, definitely.
Yeah, Zudu looks good. He went through half marathon in 69 minutes and change, so he's on that 2:18 clip, with Sergio Reyes being around 70 minutes at halfway. So they're still close enough within that minute range where, Zudu has to still focus on being top Canadian here today and run a really strong last half and not let these lonely kilometers here as the race progresses get the best of him and stay focused through these next 10K especially. I find if you can get to 32K with your head on straight, you can run the last 10K hard.
With the Tartan Homes Ottawa International Marathon being a World Athletics label race, being top Canadian in Ottawa has a lot of it adds a lot of strength to your kind of running portfolio, right? If you want to get into bigger sort of U.S. races potentially.
Yeah, a decent finish here and a decent time on this course will bode well for getting into bigger races in the future, maybe a major marathon. If these athletes are looking to contest at a high level in one of those, this is proving ground for them.
And we also have some Canadian prize money for these male and female elites as well. So top Canadian is $2,500, second is $1,500, third is $750.
So
we would love to see where Rachel Hanna is.
Through 25K, Adamu Gedahun, our current leader, ran the fastest 5K split of the race for the men, covering the 21 to 25K in sub 5-minute miles and 3:05, 3:06 per K. And this is through a hilly portion of the course. So clearly these two are focused on racing each other. And if we look back on the men in third and fourth, they look like they've grouped up together and are still in shot of them. So this race is by no means over for the win, for third place, for fourth place, for second place. All four of those spots, to me, are still way up in the air as there's a lot of running left, at least 45 to 50 minutes left of running.
Yeah, we talked about the experience before of the chase group consisting of Laban Mutai of Kenya, who was a former teammate of Eliud Kipchoge, the former marathon record holder, and Robert Chimanges, who's competed at World Championships for Uganda and won gold at the African Beach Games in 2019. So these guys are experienced, and I think knowing that they're entering a lot of hills on the course is
Yeah.
being just kind of conservative with the pace.
Laban actually ran the last split the same speed as the leaders. So they're not gaining any ground. Well, they're not increasing that gap. That gap has
Right.
maintained, and that is encouraging if you're those third and fourth athletes. Just not seeing them get further away. That keeps your psyche really engaged on the back of their heads, and you're the chaser now. You're the hunter, and they are being hunted here in this stage of the race. And I am very excited to see if Laban was just going through a rough patch, which is very common in marathons in the first 20K, and maybe he's going to start making some moves here.
So this is the new section of the marathon course through Rockcliffe Park. It was a new addition this year since they
Did not go to Gatineau.
Did not go to Gatineau, so they gave them some hills. Looks like a beautiful park, though.
Yeah, Ottawa has to be one of the most beautiful or underrated running cities in Canada. I mean, everyone points to Vancouver with Stanley Park and, you know, Jericho Beach being, you know, very picturesque and flat, but Ottawa along the Ottawa River and Rideau Canal, it's just beautiful running routes, and
Yeah.
it's a great place to train for many.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind using these hills as preparation for training. So a great city to practice for your Boston marathons and such. I'm sure many locals use these parks here to get ready for those types of races.
But Flagstaff for you couldn't be too bad as well. And there's a few hills there.
Yeah. I mean, we're not complaining, definitely. So I enjoy my time in Ottawa, though, every year for Ottawa race weekend. And it looks like these two elite athletes were just exchanging lead and using them downhill there. But Zudu is in the park as well, running through this hilly section. Not with Corey Belmore, at least not right on him. We did see Belmore in a shot recently, so it's not far off his pace, or maybe Belmore is just kind of trying to keep this pace consistent, let Zudu know, hey, this is what we requested. But Zudu is just focused on taking in fluids right now, staying calm, composed at this really hard stage of the race. 25K through the hilliest section. The race is on for all these athletes at this point. And I think we're probably going to see here in this lead men who's feeling the best in these next few kilometers coming through these hills. As we know, the biggest hill on the course is yet to come.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, this is the 50th Tartan Homes Ottawa Marathon, presented by Rogers TV. My name is Marley Dickinson, and I'm a writer with Canadian Running, and I'm joined by Fredericton Stride coach Donna Mader, and the second fastest Canadian marathoner in history, 2:08:01 man, Rory Linkletter.
Who also set a 10K road PB last night.
Yeah, as part of the Road 10K Championships here for Athletics Canada, and another great piece of Ottawa race weekend. Yeah, I'm excited to see the next 5K split, to see if Laban and Robert are keeping this gap the same between our two lead Ethiopian athletes.
The 27K split for the men was 2:47, but it was
on a downhill.
It was a downhill.
That is still, you have to move your legs this late into the race that quickly. I'm certain that has consequences for somebody later, just because even if it is downhill, you're still moving the muscles that hard.
Good job, guys.
A 2:47 kilometer at 27K, yeah, that's got to hurt the legs a little bit.
Yeah, yep. We'll see at 30K what this last 5K did to these athletes and this gap we've seen form.
And we still have the longest hill at about the 32K mark coming up, which is about a mile long.
Which a lot of people, think that once you're through the hills, you're home scotch-free. But I think what is more important is not overdoing it in the hills so that you can push after the hills. So one of the limiting factors of a marathon is your lactic buildup, which is when your body is building, kind of that fatigue in the legs. If you don't conserve enough energy, you'll go over your line here in these hilly portions, and then when you finally get to a flat stretch where you'd like to get back on pace and start to insert some sort of rhythm back into your stride, there's nothing left to give. You're now,
Your legs don't allow you.
Yeah. So
Your mind wants to go, but your legs don't.
Yeah, it's important that these athletes respect what these hills are doing to their legs and focus more on effort and less on pace through these portions.
We have a beautiful shot of the women's marathon lead group here with
Kevin Coffey still pulling them. And the second place athlete still in shot as well. So like in the men's race, we are not crowning a victor until someone crosses the line here, but we'll keep an eye on the gaps that are forming behind these athletes, and we'll keep you informed if those gaps start to close down.
the athlete in the chase group chasing our leader is Maragagu Halem. She's with a personal best of 2:24. If you're Halem and have athletes coming from behind, like sub-elite men, is that something you kind of want to work with and be like, okay, this guy's passing me, I'm going to try to match his cadence and keep up?
I would assume so. I would assume any sort of mental games you can play over the last 15 kilometers are going to be of huge benefit to you as an athlete. You're looking for anything to help you keep the lead woman in sight and keep yourself engaged with the course and your effort, because it's super easy to drift at these stages in the race. You've been focused for a long time, and you only have so much mental energy. I like to use the analogy of a candle burning. You don't want to burn too bright too early. You kind of have to let yourself burn slowly. And as much as the marathon is physical, the mental toll of staying focused for this long is probably just as hard or harder than what it does to your legs.
We have a split, half marathon split from Rachel Hanna. She came, who's the lead Canadian woman right now. She came through halfway in a 1:19:59, so she's just on sort of that 2:40 pace.
And Alexandra Hines is not far behind at 1:22:21 as our second.
We'll try to get a camera on them when we have it. But currently it's the men's race has two men sort of pushing the pace at the front with two men just kind of working together behind them.
Yeah, Damu Getahan and Tesfaye Mbessa have been running this race stride for stride, trading leads here through the hills consistently, and I think it is clear that these guys want to break one another or work together. I don't know. They're running shoulder to shoulder, which usually indicates that they're not worried about like energy and drafting. They're more worried about, staying engaged with the road ahead of them. As Kevin Coffey's got a small gap on the woman he's pacing in first place. So probably just him focusing on his effort, getting his bottle, his fluids in, and making sure that he's not in the way at this point.
That athlete behind Coffey is Ethiopia's Embit Ngesis with a personal best of 2:26. She hit halfway, sort of right on that point, splitting 1:13.
And 25K in 1:27, running very consistent with her splits throughout. We've seen, given the hilly nature of the course, more consistent splits than I would expect, which means we're probably getting more serious as the race progresses, and athletes were running conservatively early.
Done another out and back portion of the course here, but it seems like maybe they're grabbing their bottles, maybe just a little bit early here, instead of when they're coming around the turnaround point.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I guess if it's an out and back portion, I don't know what the rule is on that. But I am excited to see this 30K split when we get it, to see if Chimangas and Laban Mutai are closing this gap, maybe. I think it seems like it's, from our perspective, been very consistent, and those two athletes seem to be working together like our lead athletes are, and lots of running left, so staying focused at this point is paramount.
Yeah, this race is far from over, especially too with what's to come, this downhill section and heading back along the canal, a fairly fast section of the course.
Yeah, Melindy Elmore passed an athlete in the last 200 meters last year for second place. So, I mean, that's the nature of the marathon.
We have a great shot of Canadian athlete Sergio Reyes Villanueva coming through the downhill portion in Rockcliffe Park.
He's our second Canadian male at the moment, still chasing Zudu, but within a minute of him at the halfway split, with lots of running left still, the hardest portions of the course, he's just got to focus on his own task here and just staying on. He's checking his watch and running relaxed, using that 10K last night in the Canadian 10K Road Championships as a extension of a pre-race shakeout to get ready for this. Not many athletes would dare run a 31:05 10K the night before their marathon, but Sergio Reyes Villanueva is not your ordinary athlete here on the Canadian
And he's
running
giving a wave.
He also ran the Vancouver Marathon 4 weeks ago and won. You know, he says he's very inspired by Japanese marathoner, 2018 Boston champion Yuki Kawauchi. Fun story about Sergio is he actually saved a life at the Vancouver Marathon. At the athlete dinner the night before, an athlete was choking on food, and he had to give the athlete the Heimlich maneuver.
Man of many talents, Sergio is.
He's wearing the Mississauga Striders singlet, which is a track club that he coaches with just outside of Toronto. He's one of the nicest guys in the Canadian running scene, I have to say.
He told me he is self-coached, though, because I asked him when he told me he was running the 10K and the marathon what his coach thought of that, and I learned he is self-coached, which is a sign of an athlete that's maybe a little bit, I don't know what the right word may be, but a free spirit, maybe.
He's definitely a free spirit. He ran at McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, which is one of the top distance running programs on the men's side in Canada. They won a youth sports championship in 2022, which was their first championship in 50 years.
Plenty of solid university programs in the Ontario area, and McMaster being one of the best. So Sergio's got an experience of running with some of the top Canadian athletes.
His personal best is actually in his marathon debut, which is kind of, you don't expect that for someone that runs a lot of marathons, but he ran 2:18:04 in Toronto. Of course, that Rory Linklater, who's on our panel today, has run a few times.
Twice, yeah. It was where I debuted as well, so it's a good place to debut. Very friendly to our Canadian athletes. Serves as the Canadian Championship most years, and is the fall equivalent of what Ottawa is, which is the biggest race on that portion of the calendar on home soil. So
if we head over to the elite men's race here at the front, the last 5K split was 15:21.
That's moving. They're not slouching out there, so they're still moving through this course quite well. And according to our gap split, I want to see how much further back Chimangis is. Chimangis ran the previous 5K. According to, this must be wrong. We may have a timing error. Never mind. That is not correct. But the last 5K for Adamu Getahoon and Mbessa here was 4:48 per mile, which is moving. That can't be right. Maybe we have a mad issue. You know what it is? It's that out and back. They crossed over when they went over
to get the bottles.
I'm like, wait, something is wrong here.
Yeah, 100%.
So we'll get an accurate split hopefully for you here shortly. But from what I can tell, Chimangis is in strong third now, with Mutai dropping back well into fourth. These two athletes look great. They're working together. They're pushing each other. Hour 35 into this race. Just over 10K to go. 11, 12K to go. I feel good about saying that I believe our winner is in this group of two, but I'm not going to count out Robert Chimangis yet.
Yeah, we see that Laban Mutai, who's working with Robert Chimangis in that sort of chase group, is now sort of off the back.
And our lead woman, still in tow of Kevin Coffey, still running strong.
27K split at 3:29.
Emma Bett is
There we go.
looking very good at this point, and we can still see the chase, Mergu Halem, in shot, but distant shot, probably, if I'm just guessing, within 30 seconds still.
Seems about 200 to 250 meters back of Ngesis here.
And in the men's race, if we can get a view of that, I think I'm seeing a little bit of labor in Adamu's stride, and I think Mbessa looks a little bit more relaxed at this point, and we have a small hill, maybe the big hill actually, as we're approaching that 32K mark of the course, and this hill's the longest hill of the course. It's almost a mile long, so I think this could be a great opportunity to test how the athletes are feeling, and we may get the truth revealer of who's actually been managing their efforts the best through this first 30K.
We talked a bit earlier about Tesfaye Mbessa and his consistency over his last 4 marathons, being all under 209 or being 209 or better. So, he probably really studied the course before and was like, saw, this long hill at 32K and is now, you can see, really executing his move and looking back at Adane.
I mean, every marathon is different. So I think the most experienced marathoners, the ones that can win races like this, like we see that this move by Tesfaye being made right now, the most important skill is knowing how to feel. The splits are going to vary, terrain's going to vary, but you should know how to manage your efforts throughout the race. And I think Tesfaye is showing right now that he was running well within himself earlier in the race and has some moves to be made still. And we'll see if Adamu can keep Tesfaye in his sights over these next few kilometers and weather this storm, whether it be a surge or a finishing move of sorts. You can't count it out until they cross the line, because the marathon is a brutal race over the last 10 kilometers.
Adamu Gedehum just seems to be waving just a little bit, just tightening up in the shoulders. Is that something you see common when a lot of runners start hurting? He's really throwing his arms at this point and just trying to really keep pace with Tesfaye and Mbessa.
Yeah, I think that was probably a product of the hill as well, because I think as it seems like this grade has flattened out a touch, he does look a little bit more relaxed again. Maybe he was laboring in his breathing running up the hill, but he certainly is showing signs of fatigue in his stride. And I think what I'm noticing more so is Mbessa's stride is opening up, and he seems to be on the gas and opening up everything through this portion of the course. And as we see Adamu look over his shoulder, never a good sign if you're checking where third place is while you're getting dropped by the leader. I think he's probably consolidating his efforts at the moment and just saying, let's just lock in, conserve energy at this moment, and see what happens over the next few kilometers. Yeah, that gap's opening up quickly. I would guess this is going to be a 10-second swing in just a kilometer.
What do you think Adamu Gedehum is kind of telling himself right now on his mind? Hold on for a second.
He's probably just telling himself to relax, because that's all you can really do is maintain your form. I would assume, you just have to tell yourself, hey, I'm out here, I'm still running for prize money, I'm still running for place, I'm still running for time. As we know, Adamu's PB is 2:11 from Tel Aviv. That's still in the cards for these guys. So you've got plenty of dangling carrots for yourself. Get through this hard hill on the course and focus on competing within yourself and see what you can do over the last 10K. Because if you've got enough left in your legs, you can still do some special things. Only one person can win. And so we're not counting all 30,000 other participants this weekend. Losers here. You're running your own race. There is a victor overall, but there can be small victories in being a runner-up in a race of this level, and I'm sure that would be a breakthrough performance for Adamu either way. So just stay focused on your own accomplishment today, and don't get caught up in the overall.
We're being told that Kevin Coffey, the pacer of the lead woman here, is going to be taking her to 32K, which is
coming up.
Coming up.
Yeah, probably in the next 2 or 3K for the women.
And Ben Negasis is pretty much just on sort of that 226, 227 pace right now. But as we know in the men's race, a lot of hills to come.
And based on the shot we have of Coffee here, you can still see Whalem in the background. So I think this race is far from over as well. So you never know what is going through their minds and what they're feeling at this moment. So we'll just keep monitoring the gaps as they form and see if we're going to get any sort of dramatic close like Melindy Elmore's runner-up finish last year.
There are over 37,000 runners in this year's Ottawa Tartan Homes Ottawa race weekend. And the top Canadian in the marathon right now is British Columbia's Daniel Zudu, who is out on his own. We'll get a shot of him if you have a second. He was being paced by Canadian beer miler Corey Belmore, who seemed to drop off around sort of 25K.
Yeah, that's what you could expect from a pace. That's a good day's work of help for Belmore, and I'm sure Zudu didn't anticipate to get much more help than that. So now he's just focused on his own internal cues, staying as relaxed as possible, knowing Sergio Reyes Villanueva is still chasing him. He's got a lot to run for here today. Getting the experience of running a marathon like Ottawa and trying to be top Canadian is a great honor for him.
This is only Zudu's second marathon. His first marathon came 6 months ago at the California International Marathon in Sacramento.
Great race. Good course to prepare you for Ottawa. It has more downhill than uphill, but still the rolling hills can teach you a little bit about how to manage your effort through those portions.
What Zudu just did there with grabbing water from the water station, is that something that you use a lot of when you're running marathons?
I don't usually grab the cups on the side of the course unless it's very hot to cool myself. I usually just focus on the 8 stations every 5 kilometers that have the personal hydration. So he's probably just, trying to distract himself, give himself a little something. Sometimes just rinsing the mouth is beneficial. But man, Tesfaye Mbessa looks incredible at this stage in the race, and I cannot see Adamu anymore in shot, and it looks like he is. Oh, and there's Adamu's yellow kit in the background, but this is a substantial move. I think this was his bid for the victory, and we'll see if he managed his efforts properly over the next 5K or so. But I think he looks poised to close this one out, and we'll just have to keep an eye on what Adamu does and Robert Chimongis in third and Laban in fourth to see what kind of drama we have behind them.
And there's lots of twists and turns on this section of the race course as well, so very easy to get out of sight.
And that's good. That's a good time to make a move. If you can get out of your chaser's line of sight, that's a great way to break their spirit.
We can get a shot of the women's lead pack. Halem is just kind of catching up on Negasis and her pacer Kevin Coffey, rejoining the group after she was out the back probably about 10 kilometers earlier.
Yeah, and with Coffey still in the race, you would have to assume that Halem has sped up and not the other way around. There hasn't been a slowdown of our leader, Negasis, but it seems like Marigu Halem just probably was managing her own efforts, maybe going through a rough patch of her own, and thought to herself, maybe I can reconnect and start to work a bit of the mind games here as we enter the later stages of the race, just being in the earshot, eye shot of our leader. Oh my goodness, I think she's going to overtake her really quickly. It seems like she's making a move, which is odd to see someone who was behind to make a hard move like this, but we'll see if Kevin Coffey goes to help her or stays with our former leader. It seems like he's going to stay on his pace, whatever that was assigned to him. But yeah, this is dramatic. Both of our races have kind of changed dramatically in the last 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, I just got a 30K split there from the women. We'll give it to you when we have it. But Coffey, he's told that he's going to kind of pace them till 32. This is a major move made by Halem.
Halem ran that last 5K her fastest of the race. So I don't have an exact split, but according to the tracker, it was at 5:27 per mile. I don't know why my tracker's giving me miles, but it is. So I have the 34K split for the men at 3:04, so good running from Tesfaye, and we will try to get what that split was from our lead women to see kind of what's happening and how that insurgent of pace affects the outcome of this race.
The last split from Halem was 3:31.
That's fast. Yeah, they're not messing around.
Canada's Rachel Hanna was the first Canadian woman at the half marathon mark, coming through in just under an hour and 20 minutes. We'll hopefully get a shot of her when we can, but just trying to keep you updated on her time, and hopefully we'll get a 30K split when she comes through and be able to let you guys know.
She went through 25K at 1:35, so she's still moving along in that lead Canadian spot with Alexandra Hines in 6th overall, Rachel Hanna in 5th. So that'll be an interesting thing to track here, as there's still a decent gap. There's 2.5 minutes separating the two athletes, so probably not within eyesight. So Alexandra Hines probably doesn't know how far ahead Rachel Hanna is at this point. So Rachel Hanna is in the driver's seat for the Canadian title.
For Tesfaye and Bess, our men's leader, he's reaching sort of that 35K mark and coming through that portion of the course. That's when the race really gets tough for a lot of marathoners. What's something that you tell yourself, Rory, when you're reaching that point to kind of keep going? Because that's when the hamstrings start to tighten up a little and the body starts to hurt.
Yep, you have to just focus on running the kilometer you're in. You can't think about, oh, I've got still 7K to go, because that can be overwhelming. You just have to get to the next bottle or to the next marker on the course and just try to stay as present as can be, because if you think about what you still have to do, it can be overwhelming. Depending on how you're feeling. If he's feeling great right now, he might just be like, oh, 7K, that's a walk in the park. I know I've got this. But most marathoners at this stage are giving themselves any sort of carrots dangling to keep themselves engaged with the race. So whether it be, just get to that next turn on the road, or get to that next bottle, or get to the fan support coming up on the canal, he'll do whatever he needs to stay focused.
I imagine a lot of runners are probably telling themselves, these 7 kilometers, or the longest probably 7 kilometers, feel like the longest 7 kilometers of your running career. But you imagine you're telling yourself at that point, it's just 7K. It's just, there's only this much left.
Yeah, and if you're gonna win a major city marathon like an Ottawa Marathon, you're probably full of excitement because you're in the lead. He might have some adrenaline as he runs past the personal bottles right now, and we have.
It appears that Kevin Coffey has dropped off as
Halem,
pacer at 28K.
Halem is looking like she's well ahead at this point too, with a big move that she made within the last 2K, and she should be reaching the 10K to go mark here in the next kilometer or two. She passed 30K not too long ago. I think that's 31K on the side of the road.
Yeah, we'll get a split for you when we have it. But Halem just looks so smooth, and who saw that coming, right?
Yeah, usually not that early would there be that dramatic of a change with someone who had been dropped earlier. Usually, if that's going to happen, it's going to happen in the last 7K because the runner that was in front starts to labor. But we'll keep an eye on second place and the gap that's there. I can kind of see the shot of Emma Bett in second, and we're not going to count her out yet because, like I said, you have no idea what's going to happen in the last 7 to 10K of a marathon.
If you're just joining us on the broadcast, this is the 2024 Tartan Homes International Marathon presented on Rogers TV. We've had a fantastic race so far with Tesfaye and Bessa on the men's side, just absolutely pushing the pace.
We have our first live look at Rachel Hanna as she is, I would say, clearly in the zone and working hard as we are in the thick of the marathon course, taking her fuel in and trying to stay focused probably through this last bit of the hills. Hour 15 of the race, probably 13K to go. It's a tough place to be in. You got to kind of just focus on what you're doing, task at hand, and you can tell she's labored, but we'll assume that she's managing her efforts the rest of the way.
Yeah, it sounds like she still has a pacer sort of in front of her. Definitely laboring a little. She's currently, taking a gel. How many, I think a lot of people are probably wondering, how many gels do elite men?
She just passed an athlete that's walking, so she moved into 4th place, I believe, overall. That's important. But sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, it's all good.
But the gels, yeah, I would assume every athlete is individual on how frequently they take gel versus just fluids. I see she has a caffeinated gel there. That's a Morton gel calf. So she's probably trying to get a little hit of caffeine to give her some extra energy here on the course. She probably takes between 3 to 5 gels and the rest maybe bottles, but you never know what someone's makeup could be. They could be a exclusively gels and water person, or they can be a mixture of both.
There's our pacer right there, Joshua Ziles, who ran for the University of Windsor. He said, he told me yesterday he's going to take Rachel Hanna as far as he possibly can.
He looks good. He looks like he could go for a bit longer here.
Rocking the Stride-Wise singlet there. Shout out to that running group in southwestern Ontario. Hannah looks good. I mean, if she can keep her cadence, I think that's probably the most important thing at this point, is just keep your cadence, keep your level effort, stay relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially this being her 2nd marathon of the spring, having coming off the LA Marathon earlier this spring in March. You probably focused on recovery for a month after that race, and then you had a month to prepare for this. You're probably just trusting your instincts and your experience out there on the course, and not necessarily, some massive reservoir of fitness. She's an experienced marathoner. She's done this before, so she knows what to expect. She knows what she's in for, and so she's probably just trying to get to the next spot on the course.
Yeah, Rachel Hanna is a former national champion on the track over 10,000 meters, and she's a Pan Am medalist as well. She won bronze at the 2015 Pan Am Games in Toronto, which seems like such a long time ago, but she won bronze in the marathon there, which was only her 2nd marathon.
Yeah, and that's a great honor to do that on Canadian soil as well. So she's done this before. She knows what she's doing. She's clearly in the works here in the Hurt Locker, as most people are at this stage in the race. But we'll keep an eye on her splits and those giving chase, as she's in the top 5 overall. So that's something to keep striving for and keep focused on the road ahead.
In the elite men's race, seems like Tesfaye Mbessa is coming back into Ottawa and just looking so strong with that stride, and just really hammering his arms there.
I can still see Damu's yellow kit though in the distance. It's probably under a minute gap right there. So, I'm not counting this race over yet. So we'll keep an eye on the gaps.
His last split was 3:12 at 36 kilometers.
And the lead woman's last split at 32K was 3:32.
Okay, so at 35K, Tesfaye's lead over Adamu was 149.12, and Tesfaye was 148.45. So it's 27 seconds. That's not a ton with 7K to go. So we'll see what the 40K split is. That'll be the next time we get reference of that gap. But still very much within the realm of possibility that if something happens, a hamstring cramps up on you, or a surge of energy comes back to Adamu, that he can keep Tesfaye in sight and focus on just trying to close that gap 1 kilometer at a time.
Yeah. This is the 50th anniversary of the Ottawa Marathon. And in 1975, there was only, 153 entrants in the race?
146.
And only three were women.
And last night in the 10K championship, we had 3 masters women. In the top 4? Top 5?
Natasha Wodak, Melinda Elmore, and
Lanny?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah,
So,
we had three masters women.
yeah, and now we have 38,000 participants in Tamarack Ottawa race weekend, which features a 5K race, a kids race, a 10K race, a half marathon, and what we're watching right now, the main event, the marathon.
And a 37K split for the lead man is a 3:13.
Okay, so that's slower. So he's probably laboring, and so that leaves the door open. That was interesting. Guy in a chef's apron handing water to Tesfaye as he runs through the aid station, the mass participation aid station. And we see Halem looking good as well, still following one of the men on course, tucking in, taking advantage of the ability to draft while she can, almost to the 2-hour mark here in this marathon. That's kind of a momentous mark, I find, for me, because you've been out there for a very long time, but you know you're on the tail end of things.
Rachel Hanna just came through the 30-kilometer mark on the course. We'll have that split to you when we have it. Wavering a little bit, but still sort of staying on her pacer.
Yeah, Rachel Hanna in 5th overall, came through 30K in 1:56.24. Her splits over the last 3 markers have slowly slowed down, which isn't abnormal at this stage. Now it's going to be all about conserving and consolidating whatever she can get. She's got to just focus. She's probably not going to speed up again. You don't usually speed up again after you start to see the pace fall off.
Right.
So now it's all about trying to not lose more. Just focus on staying on the task and conserving energy where you can, and staying as close to the target pace that you had set out for.
In the men's race there, we just saw Tesfaye and Bessa look behind him as he's kind of coming back into Ottawa. Will shortly be running along the canal and winding his way to the finish at Ottawa City Hall. If you're looking, is he thinking he's looking behind himself to see how close the guy is behind him, or is it sort of I'm slowing up, like can I ease up a bit?
He's undoubtedly in pain. Nobody is not feeling any discomfort this late into a marathon, so he's probably just being like, okay, how much of a lead do I have? Because if it's substantial, maybe he focuses on relaxation, keeping his body loose, avoiding cramps, avoiding any sort of major bonk. If he noticed Adamu closing on him, he may be more aggressive by nature at this stage. But if he feels confident in the gap he has, the focus may now be on just getting to the finish line in one piece.
A beautiful shot here of Endesa just coming back into the city. You see a lot of the mass participant racers going out to the right along the Ottawa River to the park in the hills. It must be rewarding though for Endesa, knowing that the hills are kind of over with, and that you're approaching the flats and ready to rip.
Yeah, I believe he'll probably enjoy the last 5K through the canal as he shakes out his arms and looks forward to the finishing stretch here.
And he just went through the 38K split at 3:19.
So he is slowing. 3:13, 3:19. Yeah. It will probably continue in that trend. Usually that's the case, although I did see a little bit of an incline coming back up to the city right there. So maybe he'll find an equilibrium between those last 2 splits and be able to hold on.
His stride is really slowed up a bit. The target probably time for him right now is around sort of that 2:12, 2:13 mark. Obviously with the change in the course this year, not heading over the bridge to Gatineau, and adding in a little bit more hills, it creates the course being a little slower than it has been in recent years.
Yeah, it seems at 35K he was still on pace for about a 2:11:30, but we know that he's slowing a touch, so probably in the 2:12, 2:13 range. But time at this point is probably irrelevant to him. He's not going to run a personal best, so he's probably more focused on maintaining the victory, getting that $8,000 prize purse, and stamping himself a victor in a big city race, which is a huge accomplishment for any athlete. You very rarely get to break the tape in a big race like this, and I think that's something that no matter the time or the competition should be cherished.
Yeah, it seems like, again, if you can look back in the picture, Adana Genahum is just probably about 500 to 600 meters back of Tesfaye and Bessa, which would, realistically is probably around sort of 2 minutes, which would take a miracle at this point for Mbessa really to kind of tighten up and bonk in those closing stages. But if he can hold on to kind of the pace he's pushing right now, do you think he'll break the tape?
Yeah, I would say he looks relaxed enough. If he was showing a little bit more signs, like I'd say he's clearly slowing, but his gait still looks loose and relaxed. I don't see a sign of like anything like a 5-minute last kilometer at this stage. And I would assume, knowing that he's got a lead, he is focused on just relaxing at this point and staying the course, getting to the finish line, and securing the victory. So I would assume he's going to hold on, but that's why they run the race. He's gotta make it.
It's the marathon.
And the lead woman, Halem, looking really strong. We cannot see second place at this point. She's kind of taken this race by storm over the last 10K and surprised us all with a really big move through the park. And we'll get a 35K split on her probably in the next few minutes. And we'll see if she's still pressing the gas or if she's coasting as she checks over her shoulder to see where Emabet Nugusis is, who was the leader for most of this race.
Because her 34K split was a 3:38.
So still moving well. Not as fast as she was through the park, but still moving well. $39K split, 3:17, so 2 seconds faster than the 38K split for Tesfaye. So he's clearly kind of locked into his new rhythm at this point.
So Rachel Hanna here working with her pacer Joshua Ziles and a few other male marathoners here. Do you think having a pack sort of around you late definitely kind of helps and kind of matching cadences and speed, or is it, you think she's not really worrying about that right now?
I think by the look on her face and her stride, she's probably just focused on the back of her pacer and focused on getting to her next spot on the course. She's got a bottle in hand, fueling up, preventing that big bump. You can slow and hold on for the top Canadian finish and a top 5 finish here, but you just don't want what can be like a slow kilometer to turn into a catastrophic one.
Yeah, Rachel's on pace for just over 240-ish from her split at 30K.
Yeah, she's approaching 10K to go here shortly.
We go to the men's race here with Tesfaye and Bessa. He's now along sort of the riverbanks of the Rideau Canal. Great crowd support along the Rideau. Rory, you ran the 10K here yesterday. It's a beautiful portion of Ottawa and a very historic portion of Ottawa as well. It's imagine just a lot of great crowd support and people cheering you on as you're coming back in. It must really just help your morale, and especially when your body's hurting that much.
Yeah, and we see these two children running stride for stride with Tesfaye cheering him on. Yeah, this is about celebrating what you've done and taking it all in and enjoying the moment and getting to the finish line in one piece, feeling good, feeling confident that you executed what you set out to do today, and enjoying the Rideau Canal for what it is, which is a beautiful portion of the course and a welcomed flat portion after running through some pretty gnarly hills.
We're just under probably 3K from the finish here at the 2024 Tartan Homes Ottawa International Marathon.
That may or may not be the 40K split coming up here shortly.
Tesfaye and Bessa has been nothing but dominant from the get-go.
He looked really relaxed early, tucked in, didn't do much as we come across 40K in 2:05 and change. We'll check to see how far back Adamu is at 40K, because I would say if the lead has sustained at this point, 2K to go, probably not a big concern of giving up this lead.
Yeah, we'll be seeing him come around, probably flirting with that 2:12 mark.
Yeah, Usually when I get to 40K, I think sub 7 minutes to go. Just like if you're in any sort of decent cadence still, you could probably squeeze out under 7 minutes. So we'll expect him at the finish line right around the 2:12 to 2:13 mark. Which again, time is irrelevant on a day where you're a victor.
So the 40K men 5K split was 16:28.
Okay, yeah. So definitely the slowest of the race as we expected, seeing that, and 3:23 for the 40K individual split. As we can kind of see Adamu in frame as Tesfaye looks back over his shoulder, but he's probably feeling pretty good about it with 6 minutes of running left.
His cadence is really slowed down. You can see from how quickly it was earlier. Arms are wavering, head is kind of going side to side. Doesn't look as smooth as he looked earlier, but again, like as Rory alluded to, time is out the window at this point. It is pure survivor mode.
Yep. Chasing the prize purse, chasing the glory of victory. And a great run for Adamu, Canadian-based Ethiopian athlete. Really happy for him for being up in the mix for as long as he was. And a second place finish here is probably a breakthrough performance in its own right, although not a personal best effort. Still on a hard course to be in the mix, battling it out for a win, with the win in sight all the way through is a very exciting way to run a marathon.
This would be Mbessa's first big city marathon win in his career. He was second at the Xiamen Marathon in China last year.
So the 40K split was 2:05.14 officially for Tesfaye, and for Adamu, 2:05.57. So it's still under a minute gap. It's about 45 seconds. So if Adamu has anything left in his legs, he's probably got to give it a really, really good surge here and hope that Tesfaye slows. But like I said, with the shot that we have and with the cadence that Tesfaye's showing, it would be surprising to see Adamu close that gap down.
You can just hear the roar of the crowd as Ethiopia's Tesfaye Mbessa comes into almost the final kilometer of the Tartan Homes International Marathon here. When you make that turn, and Rory, you made that turn yesterday, coming over the bridge back into the city, people are just aligned. I mean, you can see the mass participants here in the half marathon just cheering him on completely. Here he just reaches 41K to go, 1.2 kilometers until the finish line. Is this the time you just kind of soak it in?
Yeah, I would say you're just focused on your form. You're focused on enjoying this moment. Again, staying composed. That last kilometer stretch is a long stretch with a lot of false finishes. Like you're coming around a lot of bends, of blind turns, and you keep thinking maybe the finish line is here, maybe the finish line is there, but you don't see it for a while, so until the last 300 meters or so. So he's just going to probably keep his head down and stay focused on getting to the finish line here as he reaches 1K to go in 2:09. So he's probably going to run 2:12.30, 2:12.40 maybe, which will be on this course equivalent to maybe a 2:10 effort, which is, again, solid. We mentioned in the broadcast that he has been around 2:09 in his last several marathons and been very consistent. So, again, he knows how to measure his efforts, and I think that shows you what the course is running like today.
Yeah, if you missed the broadcast earlier, Tesfaye Mbessa from Ethiopia really made his moves as they entered the hills in this course. Really executed and made a surge on them, and since then he's never looked back, really.
Yeah, he's kind of, when he made his move, it was decisive and it was dominant, and it showed that he was the class of the field today.
We are just under 2 minutes from crowning the champion of the 2024 Tartan Homes International Marathon.
Well, try to keep an eye on the gaps in the women's field so that we can update you once this race concludes.
One final check of the watch and look over his shoulder, and I think he knows he has it at this point.
Yeah, he's probably about to see the finish line, and I hope he's soaking this moment in and enjoying his first victory on a marathon. That's a special moment, one that I think every athlete would cherish, something I have never done, but is a big goal of mine in my career.
And here he comes, Ethiopia's Tesfaye Mbesa. One last look over his shoulder. He's been the best guy on this day. And he will soak it all in here.
Yeah, you can tell he's just enjoying this and just cruising it in. A comfortable victory in the last 12K. Shakes out his arms.
I wonder if he'll go
another
the flag
Ethiopian
here.
champion at the Ottawa Marathon, as we see. Oh, there's Adamu coming into frame. So he never really got too far out of Adamu's reach, but just enough to secure the victory.
Tesfaye Mbesa throws up his arms. He knows he is the champion on this day.
Congratulations to him.
You can just hear the crowd calling him in. Here he goes. Tesfaye Mbesa is your 2024 Ottawa Tamarack Homes International Marathon champion in 2:12, what it seems like 2:12:42. We'll get that time to you officially as we get it.
Adamu maybe under 2:13 still, probably just over. And I can see it looks like a battle for third place between Mutai and Robert Chmangas. That's a really close finish for third place. That'll be exciting to see these athletes kick it in for a third place finish. It's really cool to see, even though the moves were made early and the gaps were formed, that these top four finishers that separated themselves early are so close together still. As Adamu, native to Ethiopia, but living in Toronto, gets a glorious moment as a runner-up finish here in Ottawa. 2:13:30.
What a run.
He's
What a
excited, as he should be. And we'll see this battle for third between the Ugandan and the Kenyan. It looks like Mutai will hold on, but we won't count it out.
It didn't seem earlier that there was just that far
pretty
behind, but
close,
it's just a very close finish here.
Yeah, within 90 seconds, our top four finishers will be.
This is also a great one for Laban Mutai. He's 36. Definitely be
14.
super proud of that performance there.
As the Kenyan rounds out the podium with a great effort from Chmangas of Uganda. That's a pretty strong top four finish here in Ottawa. These guys were part of this race, made their moves, and hung tough after Mbesa kind of asserted his dominance. They stayed engaged and fought for every position. If we can get a camera now on our lead Canadian male, Zudu, as he's along the canal.
Yeah, it seems like he's approaching sort of that 40-kilometer mark on the course, and he's looking fairly smooth still. You know, it should be interesting to see if he kind of flirts with that 2:20 barrier, if he dips under that or not. Mbesa, our champion, is just, you can see here, just completely tired. What a sensational effort from him today. 2:12:42 unofficially, the winner of the 2024 Tartan Homes Ottawa Marathon, which we believe is his first big city marathon win of his career. How incredible. And he was the best man on this day. He really executed and kept the cadence, kept the pace, made the right moves, I think, at just the right times. And I think that's what kind of separated his dominance over the rest of the field. Here's a look at our Canadian man here, Daniel Zudu, as he's just approaching sort of that 40-kilometer mark. What an impressive run for him in his second marathon.
Yeah, we've officially seen the finish of our top 4. 5th has yet to come in. Felix Tremong is projected 5th, according to our tracking. Zudu is 8th overall right now, so solid run for him. We'll see if he can crack that top 7, top 8 by the end.
A top 10 finish at any big city marathon is a very impressive result.
Yeah,
And for Zudu, I imagine it'll get him to this result will get him into a lot of bigger fields in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it just calluses the legs in his second marathon only. I find every marathon is a lesson in its own, and you can definitely make big strides just from the experience of getting the distance under your legs.
Zudu seems to be about maybe a mile or so just ahead of our lead woman in the race there.
Yeah, we'll try to get a most recent split and gap in the women's field between our early leader, Emabet Nagus, and Marigu Halem, our current leader, who made a dominant move through the park, as did our male winner. It seems like this course and race is made through the hilly portion, and both our winners will likely have made their mark in that portion of the course, as Halem looks over her shoulder to see how her gap is at the moment, and I believe we'll have a similar result to our men, where the person who made the big move in the park goes on victorious. So if you're looking to run this race in 2025, take notes, folks, because that's how you win the Ottawa Marathon.
I mean, running the 10K here, Rory, that you've done so many times. And have you ever thought about running the Ottawa Marathon in future years? I know this year's an Olympic year, and there's bigger fish to fry, but
it's hard to say no to races, and you want to do them all, and especially the big city ones. And look at that beautiful shot, oh my goodness, of lead Canadian with the canal in the background. But yeah, it's just, you want to do this race just because of the prestige it is amongst the Canadian running scene. Oh no. Come on, Zudu, you've got this, man. Sergio's right behind him.
Seems to be hurting here at 40K. He looks behind him. That's.
Oh, Sergio, is that Sergio?
We will confirm the runner behind him.
Keep moving, just keep moving. You don't stop.
Go forward. At 40K, he's probably got about, with the pace he's going at, he's probably got about 8 minutes left. But it'll be interesting. I mean,
that's Sergio right there, I believe.
No, that's I believe that's Arnaud Franconi of Montreal, who was with the lead women's pack early, but made that subtle breakaway around just before the half marathon mark. He is looking so
charging.
He knows he has to make this move decisively, so Zudu doesn't even think about going with him, and he won't.
Yeah, Zudu just steps off the course and takes a look behind him at that point. Franconi is the lead Canadian, but what a move at 40K. He just looks so strong. We'll get a camera on Franconi when we can.
You got to feel for Zudu. That's a hard point in the race to just pull up.
He just made it so far. And you know, we thought he had it, reaching that 40K point, but you know, it's still that final 2K. I find that you still have such a mountain to go, right? Yeah. And it must be tough as the legs are locking up. Here he is, our man here, Arnaud Francioni of Montreal. He is a coach with the Université du Québec at Montreal. He is just looking so smooth at this point and just flailing his arms.
Powerful, powerful movement.
He passed Zudu with an impressive pace. He is probably right on sort of that
225 to 230 in that window. It's hard to say with the amount of time that they have left. I didn't catch a 40K split on him, but definitely under 230 today. And on this course, that'll probably be equivalent to his best marathon, which was in Valencia this last winter. Halem looks great. still composed, obviously slowed a little bit in her cadence, but still relaxed. So I would feel confident if I were her that, you know, so long as no cramping occurs, you're on your way to victory.
Here's just a look at Halem. She takes, again, looking behind her to see how close the next runner is, but doesn't seem close at all at this point. She's just approaching sort of that 40K mark. This is a beautiful part of the course where, you know, you have the historic Ottawa skyline in the background. She's looking smooth. Pace seems to dwindle just a little bit, but at this point, you know, I think she has it in the bag. But who knows with what we just saw with Daniel Zudu.
Yeah, you can't call a marathon until it's over. So, Zudu on the side of the road. I hope he's okay. I hope he's not in any sort of danger. You know, that's scary when an athlete drops down like that. So we'll try to get a update on his condition.
And one of the lead women is down in the medical tent at 35K. Don't have a name on that yet, but.
My thoughts are with Daniel Zudu right now as he's struggling. But Halem still moving well as she gets the crowd support along the Rideau Canal, heading towards the finish, and a likely victory here in Ottawa. As we can see one athlete in frame, but we do not know if that is her competitor or a male competitor.
We'll have a shot of Arnaud Francione coming in this finishing shoot in about a minute or so. He really looks strong at 40K, and I think that decisive move he made early on in the race, where he kind of went out at a conservative pace with the women's lead pack and made his move. It's good execution. You know?
Yeah, we've noticed a theme today here in Ottawa, that people that were conservative early and pushed through that 25 to 35K mark generally did the best.
Great shot of Halem here. Just
is this 40K?
Coming up at the 40K here. We should see her probably finishing on sort of that 231, 232 mark.
Yeah, I would guess so. Which is consistent with what we've seen today across the board. Maybe we underestimated this new course in Ottawa and its difficulty. Those 200 meters of hills, maybe I should have run this year and got a great training stimulus out of this. It seems like this would have been a great preparation for this summer's Paris Olympic Games course, which is quite hilly as well. So very cool to see kind of a component of racing that, you know, sometimes people shy away from it, but I think the challenge of a hilly course is quite compelling.
We have a shot here of Sergio Reyes Villanueva, who is also one of the top Canadians in the field today. But, you know, here comes Arnaud Francione on the finish line here. What an impressive run.
I love the power in his stride right now.
A very impressive run. This will be a personal best for him, won't it?
I believe his personal best is 225 from Valencia. I would say it'll miss it by a small margin, but well worth more than a personal best, as we've seen other athletes run 4 minutes, 5 minutes slower than their personal best on this course. This is a lifetime run for Francione.
So we're being told that Francione is going to be the top Canadian in this year's race. What a run for him. This is going to be a major win for him.
Based out of Montreal.
Based out of Montreal. A major win for him. And We've been just told he's Canadian by the race coordinator, and it is a lifetime, like just near off his personal best. What a run for Francione. He's probably going through an array of emotions right now. He's probably got his family and friends on the course, just being based out of Montreal. Impressive result. Let's see what he stops. He points at the finish line.
Yeah, to be within 20 seconds of your Valencia time on this course, the emotion he's expressing is clear. He knows he just executed a perfect marathon for himself on this day. So very happy for him. I know the feeling, and it is spectacular when you just nail the marathon. And with the way he was closing, he nailed it.
Yeah, again, looked so good today. What a run for him. Must be a surreal moment.
If we can get a shot of our lead woman at this moment, it looks like she is grabbing water cups and trying to stay composed over the last bit of this race. I cannot see her chaser, but it seems like she's definitely just focused on getting to the line. This and looking over her shoulder, it's hurting. This race has claimed a few athletes over these last stages just being very, very difficult, obviously. And we'll try to get an update on Zudu to make sure that he is okay, as we saw him drop out right in the last 1,500 meters to 2K of this race.
And we just got an update on Rachel Hanna. She went through the 37K mark, 2:26.04.
So 5K to go. We'll hope she can close it out hard for maybe a 2:45-ish mark today.
There's our Canadian champion, Arnaud Francione, the winner of the 2024 Tartan Homes Ottawa International Marathon in the Canadian race. He executed so well today. What do you think was something that really worked for him?
Yeah, I think like we said about his early start being with those lead women, finding a group that was going to be paced consistently by a veteran pacer like Kevin Coffey, that's a pretty safe way to execute, as Sergio Villanueva is finishing as well, coming off his 10K last night. Will be under 2:30. Great back-to-back. 3 hours of racing.
That's an impressive double. That's an impressive double if I've seen it.
Yeah.
Our second Canadian here. What an outstanding run for him too. We know, he was the Vancouver Marathon champion just a few weeks ago. So for him to pull off that double and the Ottawa 10K double, where he was 31:05 last night in the Canadian 10K championships, I imagine he's hurt at this point, but he's such a gritty runner.
Yep.
You can see it on his face. He's so happy. One of the nicest guys on the Canadian running scene. I'm so happy for him to have this sort of sub 2:30 result here in Ottawa.
Yeah, just stacking another experience under his belt, and hopefully he can take from this something positive, regardless of time or result, and be able to build on this for his next marathon, which, who knows, could be next month.
Could be an ultra marathon. He just ran 52.2K this weekend.
Yeah.
The women's lead split at 41K was slowed to a 4:03.
Okay, so definitely laboring.
Sergio's final time is going to be probably just around 2:29. It looks like he stops the watch. He's probably going to, I assume I don't think he'll be running tomorrow. Hopefully not. But
Don't put it past
Here's a wave.
he is the best.
He's a happy guy.
What a performance. And it should be a top 10 performance in the men's division.
Let's take a look.
We'll have the final time for Sergio when we get the chance there. Back a look here at the lead woman, Halem from Ethiopia, coming into the final kilometer. The support here from the crowd here in Ottawa is amazing. Run groups from all over Canada come to Ottawa as that sort of premier spring marathon and really just come to cheer on all the runners.
Yeah, Halem definitely struggling. I wish we had a idea of how close her chaser is, because this could very well be a closer finish than we realize with the camera angles we're able to get here. But she's being passed by a sub-elite male at the moment, but victory is probably hers, seeing as we don't see her chaser. I believe this will be, is this her first big city marathon win?
I'll double check, but we were just talking before how she used to train with Latenza Begide, and the experience must rub off on her. And she executed well today. She seemed like she kept her pace well in the midsection, which really helped her kind of catch back up to Negasis, who kind of fell back after that 32 to 33 kind of kilometer mark.
Yeah, the moves were made in the park today, and both of our winners were well out of sight of second place as they finished. Another Ethiopian victory here today as the men's winner. Mbesa, Ethiopian as well. Our women's winner, looking to be Halem, another Ethiopian.
This will be her second career big city marathon win. In 2019, she won the Sofia marathon in Bulgaria with a time of 2:35:36. She'll be faster than that today, especially, as you alluded to earlier, Roy. This course is just so tough and unwavering in some points, especially in the stages that the marathon just gets so tough around sort of that 30K mark. And, you know, Halem was able to stay composed and carry her way to the finish line. This result today is, you know, worthy of sort of that 2:25, 2:26 mark, I think, on a flatter course. So impressive running from her, and, you know, she's probably soaking in this point now and knowing that she has it in the bag.
Yeah. Yeah, we see this new iteration of the Ottawa course being quite difficult for everyone today, but, you know, that just makes it all the sweeter to execute a good race and to come away victorious over the field and walk away with that prize purse.
We have a man in front of just giving it all. But if we can get clearer shots of Halem here, just approaching. She's probably at 400 meters here. Here she comes. What a result from her. 2:32:20. Maraga Halem from Ethiopia is our 2024 Tartan Homes International Marathon Champion. What a run from her as she hugs the male champion there and her agent.
Got to stop the watch.
Hey, it's not on Strava, it doesn't count, right?
Yeah. And you got to title it. Can't just be morning run.
I feel the morning run is equally impressive, you know. It's like a mic drop.
Yeah.
What a run for her. We'll have a shot of the lead Canadian woman when we get a chance here. Rachel Hanna was leading last when we checked in at the 37K mark, coming through that point in 2:26:04. She's probably approaching sort of 39 or 40K at this moment if she's kind of stuck on her pace. We'll get an idea of that soon. Dawn, what do you think are the keys for Halem's run today? What's really stuck out to you?
Oh, she was conservative at the front at the beginning of the race, and when she made her move, she made her move. Yeah, she just stayed strong through the hills. Faded towards the end, but it's a marathon. It happens. But yeah.
A look at the shoes that Halem is racing in. Those are the Adidas Evo Pro Adios, the impressive shoes that last for only about 50 kilometers.
But they broke the world record in Berlin this past fall, so certainly good gear.
Yeah, impressive run for the Adidas athlete. Here's a look at, we now have a shot of Rachel Hanna here running along the riverbanks of the Rideau Canal with her pacer, Joshua Ziles, still keeping her moving forward here.
Based on this shot, I would guess she has about 3K to go. So probably still just holding on for something in the, yeah, that's 39K right there. So 3,200 meters to go. She will probably be closer to 248 at this point, because we can assume based on the trajectory we've had with other athletes that she's not moving her fastest at this point.
Yeah, this is probably a very tough part of the course, even though it's flat, because you're coming out of the hills, you're back down in the flats, and even though it's a fast part of the course, your legs aren't moving forward, right? The hamstrings are probably severely tight, and you just gotta give them everything you got at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I believe the biggest thing here is the hills not what they do to you while you're running them, but what they do to you after you're done running them. They take a lot out of your legs, and the best athletes on the day are the ones that are able to hold form post running through the hills, like we saw out of Franchione, who was finishing like a madman in the last 2K.
Alexandra Hines of Ottawa. It was only a few minutes behind Hannah at the halfway mark. She was in second place in the Canadians. I'm not sure where she came across sort of at the 35K mark, but I imagine it's close to see Hannah really wavering at this point, just trying to move forward.
So she was 2:19.22 at 35K, and Rachel was 2:17.48. So a minute and 40 seconds. With how we've seen Zhu do at the 40K mark, we cannot rule this race over yet for the top Canadian woman here at the Ottawa Marathon. Tartan Homes, Ottawa International Marathon.
This Ottawa course is probably something Hines knows well. Being from Ottawa, she did her first marathon at Ottawa race weekend in 2012. So
12
years later, she's back and could be our top Canadian today.
Yeah, it's not over yet. We'll see if Rachel Hannah can hold form here, as very clearly working very hard to get to this finish line. A valiant effort for her second marathon of the spring. Not an easy task, as we saw Sergio run 2 marathons this spring. One marathon alone is so hard on the body, but to come back and try again in such a short period of time is both a valiant effort and a noble one. You have to kind of be a glutton for punishment just to be out here.
We go to the finishing cam here. We see a lot of great Canadian marathoners of their own coming across the finish line.
A lot of mass participants coming in, finishing for those BQ times, and a lot better even just in those 2:30 marks. These are definitely leading their local run clubs and having good efforts out here. So this is exciting to see.
240, sub 240 is a very impressive time for someone that works probably 9 to 5 for a 9 to 5 or so.
Yeah.
Hats off to a lot of these runners. It's an incredible experience. I imagine heading around the Rideau Canal and coming back in and just seeing and the emotions from reaching your goals or crushing your times here.
If we look over at Rachel Hannah again here, I think she's starting to show a lot more forward lean and break down in stride as the kilometers go on, and I'm starting to grow a little bit concerned that she'll make it there, as we just hit 40K, and 2K can feel like an eternity when you're in this position and in this sort of pain. But we will hope for the best here. Hopefully this little sip of carb drink can revive her a bit and get her these last few moments all the way to the finish line.
I feel like that final carbohydrate drink or gel that runners take at 40K you must just think it's going to revive everything and give you any sort of energy boost that you can get, right?
Often I don't grab the 40K bottle if I'm feeling good, but if I'm feeling bad, I'll go for anything that'll give me a little bit of surge of energy.
Just a look at the finish line here as the clock at the 2024 Tartan Homes International Marathon approaches 2:40. Here's Hannah along the canal as well. Her pacer, Joshua Ziles. Incredible effort by him today. He's just been so good.
He looks effortless.
He's definitely just there for encouragement at this point. No longer doing the pacing, but just doing the encouraging goal here. Donna, what would you say is the most important factor to getting to the finish line when you're having a day that, clearly isn't a personal best day, but you're still fighting for something like top Canadian in this race.
Well, there is still a goal there, right? There is
Yeah.
still that top Canadian goal. So at this point, it's just, it's one foot in front of the other. Just whatever you can break down the course into small little bits, like she's going out by the canal, then she has to cross over, like really breaking it down bit by bit, and just treating each corner as a little goal, like check the box, right?
With
Yeah.
one of the elite women coming here amidst of a lot of the sub-elite men. It was such a tough day here in Ottawa today with how, hilly this course really was. And I think
We don't know what place this finisher is overall. We have not gotten confirmation of a second place finisher, have we?
No.
This could very well be second place in the low 240s. And I think this is Dembele Chefo. We will see and confirm that. It is. Nope. This is Tinabeb Nabiu of Ethiopia. And we believe this is our second place finisher.
Because we did have one of the lead females drop out.
Yeah.
So that's why this gap is.
Nabiu is,
First and second.
Nabiu is actually an ultra marathon,
Okay.
if you didn't know that. So she looks so composed at this point. Impressive run today. 241 is nothing to be, ashamed of. A very good result on this tough course, as we alluded to. She was also the youngest woman on the start list. What a run by her. Second
241.40.
woman, 241.40 around that point.
Great run.
Seems like we have
No.
maybe,
Maybe. Is that our third female finisher?
a third female finisher coming in there.
In a non-elite bib.
And not elite, but what a run.
Wow.
Somebody's having
Extremely
a day.
impressive. What a day.
Yeah, this is our lead Canadian woman. We did not know this is someone who was not in our elite field, so we were unaware of their positioning through this portion of the course. But
Outstanding.
sometimes this happens at these big city marathons. Someone has an underdog story and has a special day. She breaks the tape for top Canadian.
We will have a name
Wow.
for you when we get the sec, but what a performance.
242 is not too shabby either. We know this course is running very slow today.
And shocking the elite field just like that. Wow. Top Canadian woman. What a performance. Again, we will have a name for you when we get the second bib. Seems like 10.06.624. What a run. Very impressive time on this tough course.
Let's see if we can get a name quickly here.
1-2. That's my mistake. Sorry. It seems like bib number 12623.
12623.
Shocking the field here. I assume she'll get an invite back next year to the elite field and won't have to worry about signing up to any races. Oh my gosh, what a performance.
What makes this more impressive too is we know the elite fields get their personal fluids, but someone who is not entered as an elite does not get personal fluids along the course. So
Exactly.
she was carrying her own fuel or just taking what is along the course for the mass participants. She looks composed. She doesn't
I
even
was
look.
just going to say,
Yeah.
she looks very relaxed.
That's just chatty.
Does she know she just ran a marathon?
I'm wondering if she knows she's top Canadian. I assume at this point
Yeah,
she
she
knows.
broke the tape. I would
yeah,
assume so.
yeah. But do you think she was questioning, like, why is the tape up for me as I'm
Yeah.
going around the corner there? But
Maybe when she passed Rachel, she figured it out.
Yeah,
Because there
well-
was one lead woman cyclist next
cyclist
to
as
her.
well. Impressive result from her. We have Rachel Hanna coming down. Just made her turn on the final
over a K
stretch
to go.
here. People are just rooting her on, as you can see, as runners pass, and she's absolutely wavering at this point. Just trying to get every inch to the finish line.
I don't want to speak too soon, but there's a chance it was Caroline Legavre. I'm just trying to see on the app who has registered a finishing mark. We'll confirm.
Oh, well, Rachel Hanna's getting a bunch of support from the Don't Trip Series runner here, which is a run club out of Toronto. Incredible support of the confetti cannon, which I can imagine is, not sure if you want that. Oh no. This guy Ahmed took a fall here.
When you're struggling to get to the finish, I'm not sure that's exactly what you want happening right now.
No.
So was that a half marathon finisher?
We will confirm that with you in the next few seconds here.
There's a chance.
Hannah's probably going to be around sort of that 249, 250 mark. Which is to see if she dips under that time, as we talked about earlier. This course has just been so tough today. The conditions have been good, but the thing is, with the change of the course not going into Quebec, they added the Rockcliffe Parks portion, which is a lot more hilly. And the hills come kind of like the Boston Marathon in the toughest positions on the course.
And beyond. Let's go, Rachel. Finish this up.
And there's getting great support from the crowd here in Ottawa. Probably, again, the best support in any sort of marathon in Canada, I find, in any sort of race at Ottawa Race Week. And the city really just comes around that race. We've just been told that Rachel Hanna is about 800 meters from the finish line here in Ottawa. And that she'll indeed be our top Canadian today. The finisher earlier was in the half marathon, which goes off at 8:30. So around the same start time. Yeah, a little overlap. Sorry for the confusion on the course here. But here is Hanna. What a gritty run today. A huge performance for her to become the 2024 Ottawa Marathon champion, the top Canadian here. What a run.
Finally a smile from her.
Yeah. Imagine just the ray of emotions for her as she crosses that finish line.
Hats off to her. She dug deep those last few K.
Valiant effort, for sure. It was no easy task to cross the line here. Everyone that finishes earned their medal.
The marathon distance is just so unforgiving at some times, right? It's very hard. And shout out to every finisher today. It's just such an incredible feat, and the emotions that you feel when you cross the finish line. I imagine, Rory, when you hit the standard in Seville, kind of take us through, your emotions there when you found out, looked at the clock, and that it was under the men's Olympic standard of 2:08:10.
Yeah, I believe just like in any race, you're just elated to get to the finish line, as Rachel Hanna is here today. It's always an honor. She's repping her flag. Proud to just get there, and similar for me in Seville, just honored to represent Canada on an international stage or on home turf like Rachel Hanna is today here. Incredible, gutsy race. Again, second marathon of the spring. That alone is a difficult task just to get to the finish line in both. And she chose two very difficult marathons. The LA Marathon in California is quite hilly, and we know today that Ottawa was a difficult course. Judging by the finishing looks on everyone's faces here as they cross the line, they've earned every bit of glory that they have as a finisher here on this beautiful race weekend here at the Tartan Homes International Marathon in Ottawa.
Rachel Hanna wasn't only just the top Canadian today, she was 3rd overall.
Oh my
So
goodness.
she'll be able to
There
double
was
dip.
carnage.
Double dip in the prize money here. Yeah, lots of carnage with the way this course was just laid out this year.
It got really difficult to follow those last few kilometers with how much we were unable to decipher between mass participants and the overall women, but great finishes from our top 3. What a weekend here at the Ottawa Race Weekend. It is the premier event in North America in the spring, so we are honored to have you here with us on the broadcast.
It's amazing to see all the marathoners and half marathoners coming in and finishing at the same time here along the Rideau Canal in Ottawa with the Ottawa City Hall in the back. An impressive day to run here today. Again, like we alluded to, a very tough course, and being able to finish either race today, it's again not easy conditions. A pat on the back to all runners, and we thank you all for being a part of the coverage here in Ottawa.
It was an honor for Donna, Marley, and I to be here. Really cool experience here at the Ottawa Tartan Homes International Marathon.
Here's a look at the top 3 men today in Ottawa. Lencho and Bessa with an impressive run of 2:12:41, which we believe is his first big city marathon win. He was good from start to finish and really made the moves at the right time. But hats off to Adamu Gadahoon, was simply just, we thought he was gone, came back, and same with Laban Mutai. What stood out for you, Rory?
Yeah, I mean, it was a 4-person race from the gun. Top 3 get the glory of the podium, but we know that 4 people separated themselves early. Adamu made some moves early with Tesfaye Mbessa, and Tesfaye made his move decisively over the hilliest portion of the course through the park and didn't look back, although there was plenty of people giving chase. Our top 3 are well deserving of their podium finishes here and set the bar on this new course we have here in Ottawa.
Only 80 seconds separating the men. Let's take a look at the top 3 female finishers at the Ottawa Marathon today, with Maragu Halem being the first woman to cross the line, and Canada's Rachel Hanna coming 3rd overall. Just shows the absolute carnage on today's course.
Yeah, Donna, what are your thoughts specifically watching all that breakdown?
Well, when we saw the women start, we were saying they were running so consistently, more consistently than the men in the initial. And then, yeah, huge changeover. We didn't get to see all of what happened. And then, yeah, Rachel ends up 3rd overall. First Canadian, we were thinking she was going for first Canadian, ends up 3rd overall. Be interesting to see what happened out on the course to get those results.
Yeah, amazing performance of all the marathoners today. I imagine everyone crossing the finish line is just having so much emotions right now. To everyone who joined us on the Rogers TV broadcast of the 2024 Tartan Homes Ottawa International Marathon, thank you so much for joining Rory, myself, and Donna for the coverage.
Cheers.